Chapter 30-32. The young man unleashed his full strength, and his divine power burned like flames. He slashed at Lu Ming continuously, and each blade light seemed to be able to cut through the void with terrifying power. The blade light enveloped Lu Ming's body. "Watch out!" Wu Zixiong couldn't help but shout out a reminder. Previously, he was defeated by this move and was injured by this move. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars were heard, and 9 dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head. Dragon Qi soared into the sky, and their huge bodies twisted as they pounced at the young man. The 9-clawed dragon energy slammed its claws against the blade light of the young man. Boom! 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 Explosions were heard continuously. In the end, the blade light of the young man shook violently and collapsed. However, the divine dragon energy didn't stop and continued to charge at Qin Fan. How is this possible? The young man with the saber could not believe that he could not take down Lu Ming with his full force attack. Not only could he not take down Lu Ming, but his attack was also defeated by Lu Ming. Heavenly blade art, cleave the heavens. The saber-hugging young man roared as he mustered up his remaining strength and slashed out with his saber. After dozens of slashes, the young man finally blocked the attack of the 9-clawed dragon energy and defeated it. However, the young man also retreated a few thousand meters with a face full of disbelief. Origin Divine Force Factor. You've awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor. Impossible, impossible. How could you have awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor? The young man shouted crazily with a face full of disbelief. A level 5 heavenly god had awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor. What kind of monster was this? Not only him, the other 3 young men and women beside the chariot were also dumbfounded as they stared at Lu Ming with their mouths agape. During the exchange just now, Lu Ming's divine power had exuded an ancient aura. There was no mistaking it. He had definitely awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor. This, Wu Zixiong, Wu Ming, and Wu Yu were also tongue-tied. They were completely stunned and couldn't believe it. Lu Ming had actually awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor? They remembered clearly that when Lu Ming had just entered Xinhua Ancient City, his strength was far from what it was now. It was like heaven and earth. At that time, it was very dangerous for Lu Ming to be surrounded by the experts of the Qin clan. Lu Ming managed to escape in the end because of them. However, Lu Ming's cultivation had not only increased his cultivation level, but he had also awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor. His combat strength had also skyrocketed. This kind of improvement speed could only be described as abnormal. Boom! At that moment, a powerful aura burst forth from within the war chariot. Evidently, the existence within the war chariot was not calm at all. Interesting, a 5th-level heavenly god who has awakened the Origin Divine Force Factor. I didn't expect the 9 extinction heavenly king residents to have such a person. The being in the war chariot sighed before its voice turned cold. Very well. Such a prodigy is most suitable to feed my beast. Ha ha ha! The 3 of you, attack together and kill him for me. No, cripple him first. Yes, master. Outside the war chariot, the other 3 received the order and unsheathed their sabers at the same time. In a flash, they surrounded Lu Ming, Wu Ming, and the rest. Meanwhile, the young man with a saber returned with a cold expression. Lu Ming had defeated him and embarrassed him in front of his master. Damn it, Lu Ming! Wu Ming and the others were startled once again. Although Lu Ming was able to defeat the young man with a saber, would he stand a chance against the 4 of them? Let's go! The young man with a saber roared furiously and attacked first. His saber pierced through the sky, aiming at Lu Ming. Whoosh! 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 The other 3 made their moves too. Their god force exploded as they executed terrifying slashes. The 3 of them were terrifyingly strong. All of them were half-step divine kings. Moreover, they had awakened 50% of their divine energy. No one knew who the person in the chariot was, but 4 of them were so respectful towards him. Saber gleams from all directions shrouded Lu Ming, Wu Ming, and Wu Yu. Obviously, the other party wanted to kill Wu Ming and Wu Yu together. "Let's go!" Wu Zixiong roared and prepared to fight back. They could not just sit and wait. "Let me." At this moment, Lu Ming's voice was heard. At the same time, 9 ice chains flew out and surrounded Wu Ming and the others. Dong! Dong! The saber light struck the ice chains continuously, but the ice chains did not budge and did not leave a mark. "Now it's my turn." Void piercing, a long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The long spear vibrated and thrust out continuously. Whoosh! Whoosh! More than a dozen spear lights rushed towards the saber-hugging young man and the other 3. The third strike of extinction, void piercing. With the support of Lu Ming's God Force and the battle character Secret Art, this move was extremely powerful. The 4 slashed out their sabers continuously and clashed with Lu Ming's spear light. Only then did they manage to block Lu Ming's spear light. However, the 4 of them kept retreating. Moon slashing. After Lu Ming repelled the 4 young men, he stepped out and stared at the young man with the long spear, striking him with his long spear. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed towards the young man with the long spear. The power of this move was naturally above the void piercing. Heavenly Saber Secret Art. The young man with the long spear roared and slashed out with a saber, which collided with the crescent-shaped spear light. A violent explosion sounded, and the young man with the long spear's saber light shattered. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and retreated. However, the 2 ice shackles shot towards him at an extremely fast speed. "Get lost!" The young man with the long spear roared and tried to break free from the ice chains. However, Lu Ming struck out with the moon slashing again. Pum! The young man with the long spear continued to spurt out blood as he retreated. The 2 ice chains took the opportunity to coil around the young man and then tighten. The young man with the long spear screamed as his bones broke and twisted like a fried dough twist. At the same time, a layer of frost chi froze him, preventing him from moving. All of this seemed to take a long time to describe, but in fact it happened in an instant. Lu Ming repelled the 4 experts in one move and then captured the young man with the long spear. All of this happened in a breath's time. Don't you like to use other people's lives to feed your desolate beast? I wonder how it feels to use your life to feed it? Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. He controlled the ice chains and threw the young man towards a desolate beast that was pulling a war chariot. The young man with the long spear revealed a look of horror. He wanted to shout for help, but he was frozen by Lu Ming and could not make a sound. Roar! A ferocious, desolate beast saw someone flying towards it and roared. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down at the young man with the long spear. With a pff sound, the young man with the long spear was bitten into 2. Following that, the desolate beast chewed a few times and completely ate the young man with the long spear. He had previously captured others to feed his desolate beast, but he ended up dying in the desolate beast's mouth. "You are courting death." The remaining 3 young men roared with horror. Chapter 3033. The remaining 3 young men roared, but their faces were filled with fear. They did not dare to continue attacking. Interesting. Really interesting. At this moment, a cold voice was heard from the war chariot. Then, the curtains fluttered and a young figure stepped out. It was a young man who looked like he was in his 20s. He was very handsome, but his eyes were narrow and sharp like a blade. When one looked into his eyes, it was as though one's body was being cut by the blade. Young Master, Heavenly Mantis. The other 3 young men and women quickly bowed to the young man. The young man was called Young Master, Heavenly Mantis. "Why didn't you save him just now?" Lu Ming asked casually. The him that Lu Ming mentioned was naturally the young man with the blade. From the distance, just now, Young Master, Heavenly Mantis had the chance to save him, but he was indifferent. What's the point of keeping a piece of trash alive? He can be used to feed my beast. Young Master Heavenly Mantis said indifferently, "Roar, roar," as though they were cooperating with young Master Heavenly Mantis. The two wild beasts roared, and a ferocious aura spread out. The other, 3 young men and women had ugly expressions, but they did not dare to make a sound. In young Master Heavenly Mantis' eyes, their lives were not even comparable to the 2 wild beasts. "Leave this kid to me. Take down the rest and make amends for your mistakes. Do you understand?" Young Master Heavenly Mantis spoke again and glanced at the 3 of them. Yes. The 3 of them quickly nodded. Then saber lights burst out and attacked Wu Ming and Wu Yu. However, with a thought from Lu Ming, 9 ice chains flew out and shrouded Wu Ming and Wu Yu. The saber gleams of the 3 young men slashed at the ice chains, but were all blocked by the ice chains. "Kid, your opponent is me." At this moment, young Master Heavenly Mantis shouted coldly. His palm was like a blade, and he slashed at Lu Ming. He used his palm as a blade, and the blade was shocking. He was much stronger than the young man with the blade. "Get lost!" Lu Ming roared. His body swelled rapidly. Lu Ming used the ancient god body and turned into a young ancient god that was a few hundred meters tall. Boom! The long spear swept upwards and bombarded young Master Heavenly Mantis's blade light. A violent explosion erupted, causing young Master Heavenly Mantis's blade light to vibrate continuously. Then young Master Heavenly Mantis's face changed, and he retreated rapidly. "Kill!" After pushing young Master Tian Mantis back, Lu Ming suddenly turned around. With a jerk of his long spear, 3 spear lights shot out and attacked the other 3 young men and women. Lu Ming was now in the state of the ancient god body. The power of his attack was terrifying. The 3 youths could not withstand it at all. Puff! 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 The 3 spear lights pierced through, and blood splattered everywhere. The 3 young men were killed on the spot. "You're courting death." After young Master Heavenly Mantis stabilized himself, he saw the 3 young men and women being killed. He let out a furious roar, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. A desolated ancient aura spread across the place. Origin, divine power, factor. Young Master Heavenly Mantis was a peerless genius who had awakened the divine power origin. Moreover, his cultivation base was also at the half-step divine king realm. At this moment, his eyes were extremely cold, and a cold killing intent spread out from his body. He did not use his full strength in the previous attack. He did not expect Lu Ming to be so powerful and have a trump card. Suddenly, Lu Ming used the ancient god body to push him back. Boom! Young Master Heavenly Mantis took a step forward, and a saber light soared up to the sky. A vast aura pressed down on Lu Ming. "It's more interesting now. Kill!" Lu Ming shouted, and his battle intent soared. He raised his long spear and charged towards young Master Heavenly Mantis. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed down forcefully. Heavenly Saber Art. Young Master Heavenly Mantis also cultivated the Heavenly Saber Art. With a slash of his palm, a dazzling saber light slashed towards Lu Ming. He was much stronger than the other young men and women. Boom! Both of their attacks collided, creating a terrifying wave. The force was like a tidal wave that spread out in all directions. Both of their bodies shook slightly before they clashed again. Boom! Boom! It was a head-on battle. The saber light and spear light clashed continuously for more than 10 times. How can this kid be so strong? Young Master Heavenly Mantis was getting more and more fearful. He was a peerless genius of the 9 Sabers, Heavenly King residence. He had awakened his origin divine force when he was only a half-step divine king. He was almost invincible under the divine king realm. There were only a few who could fight against him. He had never dreamt that there would be a day where he could not even take down a level 5 heavenly god. Heavenly Mantis body, transform! Young Master Heavenly Mantis shouted, and his body began to transform rapidly. In the end, he turned into a giant mantis that was over 100 meters tall. So it's a mantis. So ugly. Lu Ming curled his lips. The mantis that young Master Heavenly Mantis transformed into was not like the ancient god body. It was some kind of secret technique. It was young Master Heavenly Mantis' true body. Young Master Heavenly Mantis was some kind of divine mantis beast. It's your honor to see my true body. Die. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's cold voice sounded. With a stomp of his back legs, his body charged toward Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. Then, he slashed at Lu Ming with his 2 front claws. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's 2 front claws were like 2 divine blades. They were extremely sharp. Lu Ming waved his spear and went up to meet the attack. Clang! Clang! After a few collisions, Lu Ming's body was pushed back a dozen steps. The spear in his hand vibrated continuously, and there were a few cracks on it. What sharp claws! Lu Ming exclaimed secretly. The other party's sharp claws were extremely sharp and harder than divine weapons. Even Lu Ming's 9th level superior grade divine weapon was chipped by it. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, back off. Back off further. At this moment, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Wu Ming and Wu Yu. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's speed was extremely fast. Lu Ming had to divert his attention to protect Wu Ming and the rest. It was difficult for him to perform at his best. All right. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the rest naturally knew Lu Ming's situation. They quickly retreated. Young Master Heavenly Mantis casually glanced at Wu Ming and the rest, but did not pursue them. In his opinion, Wu Ming and the rest were just small fries, while Lu Ming was the big fish. As long as he killed Lu Ming, the rest would not be able to escape. Kill, kill, kill! Young Master Heavenly Mantis shouted coldly. He stomped on the ground, and his body pounced at Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. His 2 front claws slashed out continuously. In an instant, he had slashed out hundreds of times. Come on! Lu Ming's battle intent was strong. The divine force in his body erupted. His spear shook as he executed the 3rd strike of extinction. He pushed the 3rd strike of extinction to the extreme, displaying the 8th level. Whoosh! Whoosh! Rays of spear light burst out like shooting stars, piercing towards young Master Heavenly Mantis. The spear glow and the saber glow collided once again, like stars exploding in the sky. Powerful gusts of wind struck the ground, leaving huge pits and ravines in the ground, as if the heavens and earth were about to be destroyed. Chapter 3034. The destruction caused by the battle between Lu Ming and young Master Heavenly Mantis was similar to the destruction caused by the battle between the 2 divine kings. Boom! Another violent explosion was heard as young Master Heavenly Mantis's body retreated rapidly. A white mark appeared on his body. After a series of collisions, Lu Ming finally found an opportunity to stab young Master Heavenly Mantis's body with his spear. What a thick carapace! Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Just now, his spear had stabbed young Master Heavenly Mantis, but it had not broken through the carapace. Ha ha ha! You can't break through my defense. Only I can kill you. Do you understand? Young Master Heavenly Mantis laughed. His hind legs stomped on the void again, causing the void to explode. With a swoosh, he charged towards Lu Ming. As he charged forward, young Master Heavenly Mantis stomped on the ground again, increasing his speed to the maximum. He appeared on Lu Ming's right side in an instant and slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's spear swept out and blocked young Master Heavenly Mantis's attack. However, young Master Heavenly Mantis stomped on the ground again and appeared on the other side, launching another attack at Lu Ming. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's rear legs stomped on the void, increasing his speed to an astonishing level. He constantly flashed around Lu Ming and launched attacks continuously. It was as if there were blade lights slashing at Lu Ming from all directions. Lu Ming's mind moved, and the ice shackles wrapped around his body. Those blade lights clanged against the ice shackles, but they were ultimately blocked by the ice shackles. It seems like you can't break through my defense either. Lu Ming said faintly, Is that so? You think you can stop me? Break for me. Young Master, Heavenly Mantis, roared as his front claws slashed at Lu Ming. The ice shackles vibrated and cracks appeared on it. However, it still managed to block Young Master Heavenly Mantis's attack. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's strength was astonishing. His overall combat strength was definitely not below Jin Yuan's. However, in terms of the highest single attack, he was still slightly inferior to Jin Yuan's Void Severing Sword. However, Young Master Heavenly Mantis's speed and defense were stronger than gold ingots. His overall combat strength was even slightly stronger than gold ingots. It's my turn. Moonslayer, Moonslayer. Lu Ming shouted. His god power poured out like it was free as he continuously used moon severing. One after another, crescent-shaped spear lights slashed at young noble Heavenly Mantis. Boom! Finally, the two of them clashed once more. However, after Lu Ming's third strike of annihilation broke through to the 8th level, his strength had increased compared to the time when he fought with Jin Yuan. In a head-on clash, he was still superior to Young Master Heavenly Mantis. The sky rumbled as Young Master Heavenly Mantis's body trembled violently. Like a cannonball, he plummeted to the ground and smashed heavily. Boom! The ground rumbled and exploded continuously. A huge crater with a radius of tens of thousands of miles was formed. Cracks spread across hundreds of thousands of miles. This was still within Starry Crescent Ancient City. Everything in Starry Crescent Ancient City was tougher than the outside. If it was on a planet outside, the destructive power would be far greater than this. Roar, seeing young noble Heavenly Mantis smashed to the ground. The two beasts roared furiously. They stepped on the void and pounced towards Lu Ming. The two beasts were very strong. Although they were not as strong as young noble Heavenly Mantis, they were comparable to people like Qin Yukong. Two beasts, you are courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He struck 2 consecutive times with his spear. 2 crescent-shaped spear gleams slashed out. These 2 moves were almost Lu Ming's most powerful attacks. How could the 2 desolate beasts withstand them? They were split into 2 and died on the spot. Then the beasts' corpses fell, pulling the war chariot and the dozen young men behind it to the ground. Steady! A young man roared. He circulated his remaining divine power and barely stabilized his body. Brat, you are courting death. I want you to die. The ground exploded and a figure rushed out. It was young noble Heavenly Mantis. Young noble Heavenly Mantis had transformed into a mantis. His expression could not be seen clearly, but his eyes were extremely cold. As he soared to the sky, his 2 front claws joined together. His body spun rapidly like a poisonous dragon and drilled towards Lu Ming. Wherever he passed, the void trembled violently. Lightning and flames were emitted. One could see how terrifying his power was. He's going all out. Lu Ming muttered. Obviously, this was young noble Heavenly Mantis's strongest move. It was also a desperate move. Bring it on. Lu Ming took a deep breath. The divine power in his body rushed madly toward his arm and then toward the long spear. Star burst! Lu Ming roared and thrust his long spear downwards. A huge spear light burst out and pierced towards young noble Heavenly Mantis. Boom! The moment the spear light collided with young noble Heavenly Mantis, it exploded. A terrifying destructive force rushed towards young noble Heavenly Mantis. Asterisk sizzle, asterisk young noble Heavenly Mantis's poisonous dragon claws clashed with the destructive force continuously. A piercing sound was heard, but in the next moment, the speed of young noble Heavenly Mantis's rotation slowed down rapidly. Damn it! young noble heavenly mantis roared in disbelief. His body was then sent flying by the destructive force. Once again, he fell towards the ground like a meteor. Boom! Young noble heavenly mantis fell to the ground for the second time. This time, the impact was even greater than the previous one. The ground crumbled continuously, and endless gravel and dust were blasted out by the shock wave. Brother Lu Ming, such terrifying combat strength! Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the rest swallowed their saliva when they saw this scene. They were dumbfounded. This level of strength was truly beyond their imagination. If they didn't experience it themselves, it would be hard for them to imagine that Lu Ming needed their help when they first entered Xingyue Ancient City a few years ago. Now, even the most powerful Wu Zixiong would be killed in seconds if he were to face Lu Ming. It's no wonder that Zifeng keeps praising Brother Lu Ming, saying that he's a rare genius and that he'll be famous in the Taishu sacred dynasty one day. Now, it seems that he's not exaggerating at all. Wu Yu sighed. Not only that, we've underestimated Brother Lu Ming. In my opinion, Brother Lu Ming's stage isn't just the Taishu dynasty. Wu Zixiong said. The few of them sighed again and again. Lu Ming's attack did not stop at all. After he struck young noble heavenly mantis to the ground, Lu Ming swooped down like a bolt of lightning towards the place where young noble heavenly mantis fell. He wanted to kill young noble heavenly mantis in one go. Lu Ming's long spear pierced towards young noble heavenly mantis's glabella. Young noble heavenly mantis was lying on a pile of rocks, vomiting blood. When he saw Lu Ming coming, he quickly raised his two front claws to block in front of his glabella. Clang! Lu Ming's long spear pierced young noble heavenly mantis's front claws. It was as if it had pierced several divine weapons, producing a metallic sound. Chapter 3035. Lu Ming stabbed the front claw of young master, heavenly mantis. Boom! A terrifying force burst out and rushed towards young master, heavenly mantis. The ground continued to shatter, especially the ground under young master, heavenly mantis's body, which continued to explode. Finally, there was a loud explosion. The rock under young master, heavenly mantis exploded and collapsed, revealing a dark hole that was a few hundred kilometers wide. Young master, heavenly mantis's body fell straight down. There's actually an underground space below. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. However, after pondering for a while, he did not hesitate and swooped down as well. There was a huge underground space under the ground. There were statues everywhere. Lu Ming glanced around and found that the statues were similar to the statues of various primitive gods. Each of them was very tall, and the shortest one was at least 1,000 meters tall. This underground space was like an underground palace. The ground was paved with black rocks. Young noble heavenly mantis smashed into the ground and issued a muffled explosion. The young noble spat out several mouthfuls of blood. His aura was somewhat weak, but the ground was completely fine. Not to mention an explosion, there wasn't even a single crack on the ground. This kind of ground was unimaginably hard. Lu Ming did not continue to attack. Instead, he looked around. There was nothing around except for the huge statues. It was quiet, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. Young master heavenly mantis took the opportunity to get up and went into a defensive state. He looked at Lu Ming with caution. At this moment, his eyes were filled with fear. Lu Ming's strength was beyond his imagination. I didn't expect there to be such a place under the ground. It'll be your burial ground, Lu Ming said faintly, but his voice was filled with cold, killing intent. Kid, I admit that you're strong. However, you're dreaming if you want to kill me. He must be tired after the battle. Your divine power should be exhausted soon, right? Young master, heavenly mantis said. Lu Ming's strength was only slightly stronger than him. He must be dreaming if he wants to kill him. Is that so? The corner of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly. He took a step forward, and his body suddenly rushed out. Then he stabbed out with his spear. This spear was starburst. Lu Ming directly used his strongest move. A spear light pierced towards young Master Heavenly Mantis. This move again. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's pupils contracted rapidly as he retreated in an attempt to avoid the attack. Boom! However, the moment young Master Heavenly Mantis retreated, the spear light exploded and turned into a destructive energy that rushed towards young Master Heavenly Mantis. Young Master Heavenly Mantis let out a miserable shriek as his body was sent flying and smashed heavily into a statue. Boom! The statue didn't move at all. However, young Master Heavenly Mantis coughed up several more mouthfuls of blood. His carapace had caved in and was on the verge of breaking. Damn it! Young Master Heavenly Mantis roared furiously. Before Lu Ming could make his move, he stomped on his hind leg and retreated rapidly. He retreated to a huge statue and then stomped on his hind leg again, moving from this statue to another statue. Just like that, young Master Heavenly Mantis's body kept jumping from statue to statue at lightning speed. In this way, Lu Ming couldn't accurately pinpoint young Master Heavenly Mantis's position. It was difficult for him to unleash the power of his attack. Ha ha ha, kid, let's see how you're going to kill me. When I get out of here, I'll make sure that you die without a burial place. Bastard of 9 Extinction, Heavenly King Mansion. Young Master Heavenly Mantis laughed out loud. His voice was extremely ferocious. He, young Master Heavenly Mantis, had a high status in 9 Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? He must avenge himself. You're really naive to think that you can get out of here under such circumstances. Do you think that you can avoid my attack with such means? Inescapable net. Lu Ming sneered. Then 9 ice chains flew out. The 9 ice chains rapidly lengthened, shuttling between the statues and intertwining with each other. The ice chains were a secret technique. As long as Lu Ming supported them with his divine force, they could lengthen continuously. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 9 ice chains shuttled between the statues, and even the sky was shrouded by them. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's face fell. His range of movement was greatly reduced. Kill! Lu Ming charged forward with his long spear. Young Master Heavenly Mantis quickly retreated and slashed at the ice chains. However, the ice chains only trembled a little but did not break. The ice chains wriggled a little and tried to entangle young Master Heavenly Mantis. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's face fell, and he quickly retreated. However, what welcomed him was a ray of spear light. Young Master Heavenly Mantis could only dodge quickly. Exploding star. Lu Ming seized the opportunity and blasted out another exploding star. Boom! This time, young Master Heavenly Mantis was hit head-on. He screamed miserably as his body was blasted out and collided with a statue. This time, his injuries were more serious. Several cracks appeared on the carapace on his body. Blood flowed out continuously. His defense had been broken. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's eyes revealed deep fear. No, I can't die here. He can't use this ultimate move too many times. Young Master Heavenly Mantis roared in his heart. However, in the next moment, he felt even more despair. This was because Lu Ming stabbed his spear again. This time, it was the same exploding star. Ah! Young Master Heavenly Mantis screamed miserably again. His body was blasted away by the power of destruction. Blood splattered everywhere. This time, he was even more miserable. The carapace on his chest was completely shattered. A large piece of flesh was missing. One could even see the internal organs inside. Young Master Heavenly Mantis lay on the ground and vomited blood. He no longer had any strength to resist. Let me send you on your way. Lu Ming said coldly. No, you can't kill me. I am from the Heavenly Mantis clan of the 9 Sabers, Heavenly King Mansion. If you kill me, do you want to cause a war between the 9 Sabers, Heavenly King Mansion, and the 9 Sabers, Heavenly King Mansion? Heavenly Mantis roared. A war between the two Heavenly King mansions? What does that have to do with me? Lu Ming sneered. He strode forward. No, if you kill me, the Heavenly Mantis clan will not let you off. Young Master, Heavenly Mantis roared. Hee, even if I kill you, who will know? Lu Ming continued to sneer. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's face turned pale as he screamed, No, don't! Exploding star! Lu Ming could not be bothered with young Master Heavenly Mantis and blasted out another exploding star. Puff! This time, the spear light directly pierced young Master Heavenly Mantis's body and exploded. Young Master Heavenly Mantis's screams stopped abruptly because his body had exploded. His flesh and blood scattered everywhere, and his soul turned into ashes. Young Master Heavenly Mantis, a peerless sky pride who had awakened the divine force of origin, had fallen. Huff! After killing young Master Heavenly Mantis, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Young Master Heavenly Mantis was really hard to kill. His speed was fast, and his defense was shocking. Chapter 3036. Young Master Heavenly Mantis had almost no weakness. His attack power was extremely strong, his speed was fast, and his defense was amazing. Such a person had the ability to survive. If it was an open space outside, even with Lu Ming's current strength, he wouldn't be able to kill young Master Heavenly Mantis. However, young Master Heavenly Mantis was a little unlucky. There was an underground space filled with extremely hard statues. Lu Ming used the ice shackles to seal the surroundings, which interfered with young Master Heavenly Mantis' mobility. That was why Lu Ming seized the opportunity to kill him. Moreover, Lu Ming used the exploding stars technique continuously to kill young Master Heavenly Mantis. It would be difficult to use other techniques to break through young Master Heavenly Mantis's defense. Then Lu Ming looked around. There was actually an underground space here, and it was very deep in the ground. Previously, young Master Heavenly Mantis was continuously smashed into the ground and was bombarded by Lu Ming. He blasted through at least a few thousand miles of the ground before entering this underground space. In other words, this underground space had never been discovered by anyone. An undiscovered underground space could also be said to be an underground ruin. Could there be any treasures there? Lu Ming's eyes lit up slightly at the thought of this. Since he was already here, he might as well explore. However, right at this moment, veined patterns suddenly appeared on the ground. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed because he discovered that the blood spilled from young Master Heavenly Mantis's death was actually absorbed by the ground. Then, a blood-red pattern appeared on the ground, covering the entire underground space. Even those statues had blood-red veined patterns on them. It was a large array. Lu Ming instantly determined that it was a large array that seemed to have been activated by young Master Heavenly Mantis's blood. Not good. Lu Ming's countenance changed. He could not stay here for long. Just as he was about to soar into the sky and dash out of the gap, there was a violent roar from the ground. One of the pieces of ground suddenly protruded and blocked the gap. Boom! Boom! Then the entire underground space underwent a change. Some places protruded and some concave. The surrounding environment underwent a drastic change. Rumble. Furthermore, the tremors grew more and more intense. It was as if the entire earth was trembling violently. At this moment, a shocking scene was taking place outside as well. Thick runes suddenly appeared in the area where Lu Ming and young Master Heavenly Mantis were fighting earlier. Countless runes were densely packed, intertwining and revolving around each other, emitting a bright glow that covered the territory within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Furthermore, the range of the runes was still rapidly expanding. Soon, they covered an area of 100,000 miles. What's going on? Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the rest's faces turned ashen, retreating hastily. Afraid of being enveloped by the runes, they stood outside the range of the runes. A great formation. Why is there a great formation here that covers an area of 100,000 li? Not good. Brother Lu Ming is still inside. Wu Ming, Wu Yu. And the others were startled. Let's go save Brother Lu Ming. Wu Zixiong gritted his teeth. All right. The others nodded and rushed toward the area covered by the formation. However, when they rushed into the area covered by the formation, they were blasted away by an invisible force. They could not get close to the formation's range. This is troublesome. Wu Ming and the others stopped outside the formation, their faces ugly. Lu Ming was inside the formation, and they did not know how he was doing. Rumble. The tremors on the ground grew stronger and stronger. Endless runes intertwined, forming a mysterious formation that emitted dazzling light. Moreover, the light was getting brighter and brighter. Not long after, the endless light intertwined, forming an incomparably huge light pillar that soared into the sky and pierced through the firmament. Half the sky was dyed blood red. At this moment, everyone in the area noticed the abnormality, even though they were far away. Some were flying, some were resting, and some were chatting. However, at this moment, their gazes were attracted to this side. What's that over there? Multicolored light filled the sky. It's so shocking. Could a rare treasure have appeared? Let's go take a look. Many people's eyes flickered as they rushed toward the light. Not long after, many people had gathered in the area where Lu Ming and young Master, Heavenly Mantis, were fighting. They were all sky prides who had gathered from all directions. However, these sky prides were blocked and stood outside the formation, watching from afar. However, these sky prides were obviously divided into two camps. One of them was the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence, and the other was the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence. As time passed, more and more people gathered there. A rare treasure has appeared. It must be the birth of a rare treasure. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a commotion. Many people's eyes were burning. A rare treasure has appeared. Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence. Get lost. Suddenly, someone shouted. Hee hee, what a joke. The one who should get lost is the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence. Immediately, the sky prides of the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence responded with a sneer. The 27 Heavenly King residences under the Taishu dynasty were in a competitive relationship. Many of them had conflicts and even grudges in order to compete for resources. The relationship between the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence and the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence was not harmonious. When they encountered each other, conflicts were inevitable. Then all of you shall die. One of the sky prides from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence shouted coldly as he unsheathed his saber. A terrifying saber radiance slashed out violently. Poof! One of the sky prides from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence was killed when he was not paying attention. You're courting death. Kill these bastards for me. Suddenly, the sky prides from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence were enraged as they attacked the people from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence. Kill. The sky prides from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence were not to be outdone and began to counterattack. Most of the sky prides from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence practiced saber techniques. Rays of saber radiance slashed out violently. A chaotic battle broke out at the scene. Of course, not all of the sky prides joined in. Some of them did not join in and retreated to distance themselves from each other. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others also retreated to a distance. The battle between the sky prides was extremely intense. In an instant, some of them fell and their blood splattered across the sky. The battle became more and more intense, and both sides suffered losses. Whoosh! Suddenly, a dazzling saber radiance shone in the crowd. The saber radiance was extremely dazzling as it pierced the 9 heavens. The saber radiance was filled with an ancient aura. Several sky prides from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King residents were killed and split into 2. It's the origin source divine power factor. It's the origin source divine power factor. A sky pride who has awakened the origin source divine power factor is attacking. Someone from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King residence, shouted in shock. In the face of such a person, ordinary sky prides were no match at all. Chapter 3037. In the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion, there was a burly young man with horns on his back and a black war saber in his hand. Every time he slashed out with his saber, there would be a supreme talent from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion killed. No one was his match. Retreat, retreat. Many people from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion were shocked and retreated. Kill, kill. All of you from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion, die. The young man with horns on his back laughed wantonly. His saber radiance was shocking as he slashed out continuously. A few more people were killed by him. Boom! At this moment, a stone spear pierced through the void and let out a terrifying whistling sound as it charged towards the young man with horns on his back. The young man with horns on his back was shocked. He shouted as his war saber vibrated and slashed out forcefully. Clang! The war saber clashed with the stone spear, and there was a loud bang. Many people at the side retreated as they did not dare to get too close. As a terrifying force spread out, the young man with horns on his back shuddered and retreated a few steps. The stone spear flew out as a young man broke through the void and grabbed the stone spear in his hand. Su-Yen, it's Su-Yen. We're saved. The supreme talents from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion, were overjoyed when they saw the young man. This young man was the one who was cultivating at the Myriad Deity Cliff, and Lu Ming had taken his place when the time limit was up. He was also in existence who had awakened the origin divine power factor. Su-Yen, it's you. The young man with horns on his back said coldly as his eyes were like lightning. Lu Ji, I'll be your opponent. Su-Yen said as he waved the stone spear in his hand, causing the sky to rumble. The Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion, and Nine Sabers, Heavenly King mansion often competed with each other. Hence, some of the top supreme talents knew each other and had even fought with each other before. Very well, we haven't seen each other for many years. Su-Yen, I'd like to see how much you've improved. Lu Ji sneered as he took a step forward. His body turned into a saber radiance as he slashed toward Su-Yen. Su-Yan's stone spear vibrated as divine radiance pierced through the void and clashed with Lu Ji. Boom! Boom! The two of them engaged in an intense battle. Both of them were half-step divine kings. Moreover, they had awakened the divine origin divine force. The secret techniques they had mastered were also extremely terrifying. For a moment, it was hard to tell who was the winner. The two of them fought a great battle. No one dared to stand within a radius of several tens of thousands of li. The energy that flowed in all directions was too terrifying, making people feel apprehensive. Such strength had already surpassed some of the weaker god kings. For example, even the Dark Knight Demon King probably did not have such battle prowess. If one got too close and was hit by the scattered energy, only death would await them. However, there were exceptions. A young man in a golden robe strolled through the void and approached the place where Su-Yen and Lu Ji were fighting. He stopped within a few hundred miles of the battlefield. His body emitted a dazzling golden radiance. An ancient and desolate aura blocked the force of the outside. It's Jin Yuan. Jin Yuan is here too. On the Nine Absolute Heavenly King Manor's side, many people were overjoyed. On the Nine Absolute Heavenly King Manor's side, another top heavens chosen came. Jin Yuan was previously injured by Lu Ming. After a period of time, his injuries had already healed and he was showing off his abilities. Jin Yuan, I wonder what realm your void-shattering hand has reached. Do you want to spar with me? A faint voice was heard. From another direction, a young man in a gray robe with a battle saber on his back walked through the air. A terrifying aura shrouded Jin Yuan. Jin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. This was also a heaven's chosen who had awakened the divine origin divine force. Leave him to me. The void-shattering hand is said to be able to shatter the void. I have long wanted to experience it. However, at this moment, another voice was heard. Then, another young man appeared. This young man was undoubtedly an expert from the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King Manor. He was tall and sturdy, wearing a golden armor and holding a long spear in his hand. In the Nine Sabers, Heavenly King Manor, most people used sabers as their weapons. However, there were exceptions. Not everyone used sabers. For example, this person used a spear. This person held a long spear in his hand, and his battle intent was soaring. He was like a god of war. Overlord Spear, Chubaxing. Jin Yuan squinted his eyes slightly. That's me. Come, let my Overlord Spear have a taste of your void-shattering hand. The young man in golden armor was called Chubaxing. He was very domineering, and his aura was surging. He took a step forward and charged towards Jin Yuan. Buzz! The long spear vibrated, and a huge golden spear radiance pressed down on Jin Yuan. Humph! Another one with a spear. Break! Void-shattering hand! Jin Yuanli shouted. His palm turned into a pure gold color as he struck out with it. In the sky, the two golden radiances collided and exploded with an earth-shattering boom. The terrifying impact turned into rings of golden ripples that spread out in all directions. The two figures trembled and then continued to fight. Boom! Boom! The crowd could only see the two golden radiances colliding in the void at an astonishing speed. The void was constantly exploding, and the shock waves bombarded the ground, creating terrifying craters. However, whenever the shock waves blasted towards the rune-filled ground, they would be blocked by an invisible force. Only two decent people from the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion came. Is there anyone who can be my opponent? The young man in gray robes with a saber on his back said coldly as he looked towards the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Many people's faces changed. This person was obviously a Sky Pride of the same level as Jin Yuan and Su Yan. Other than Sky Prides of the same level, who else could be his opponent? If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. A cold voice resounded, and then a violent aura suffused the heavens and the earth. After that, a robust young man appeared. The young man was wearing a beast-skin coat. He was burly and had a ferocious look in his eyes. He looked like a wild beast. It's him. The eyes of many people from the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion lit up. This young man was also a peerless Sky Pride. When he entered the Starry Crescent Ancient City, he had passed through the Gate of Heaven. He was also someone who had awakened the Origin Source Divine Force Factor. Interesting. Looks like there are quite a number of Sky Prides from the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion here. The young man in gray robes with a saber on his back sneered. The saber on his back buzzed as if it was about to be unsheathed. Before the saber was unsheathed, a terrifying saber light broke through the sky and pierced through the clouds. It's really lively today. Indeed, it's very lively. Then, another two voices were heard. Two rays of light appeared from different directions and flew towards the area where Jin Yuan and the others were fighting. Another two young men revealed themselves and unleashed powerful auras. Someone from the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion recognized one of them as a Sky Pride from the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. When they entered the Starry Crescent Ancient City, there were a total of 4 people from the Starry Crescent camp who had passed through the Gate of Heaven and awakened the Origin Source Divine Force Factor. Now, all 4 of them were present. However, there were also 4 geniuses of the same level on the Nine Extinction Heavenly King Mansion side. Both sides confronted each other and sparks were ignited. Chapter 3038. Many people continuously retreating far enough to look ahead. Could it be that the 8 peerless prodigies from both sides are going to engage in a battle royale? That was a rare sight. Some people even widened their eyes and watched carefully, hoping to get some inspiration from it. One had to know that Su Yan and the others had awakened their origin divine power. Watching them fight and sensing the aura of their origin divine power would indeed give them some inspiration. Su Yan and Lu Ji, Jin Yuan and Chu Baxing were still fighting fiercely. Boom! At this moment, the two incomparably resplendent golden lights collided once again. Then the golden lights exploded, and the two figures continuously retreated. It was Chu Baxing and Jin Yuan. However, Chu Baxing retreated a shorter distance, while Jin Yuan retreated further. So that's all there is to the void severing Tao, Chu Baxing said indifferently. His body was also covered in golden light, and his spear was buzzing with battle intent. Jin Yuan's expression was a little ugly. He was actually at a disadvantage in the battle just now. He was being suppressed by Chu Baxing. Damn it! How is this possible? My Jin family's void severing Tao is invincible. How can I be suppressed? Jin Yuan roared in his heart. First, he lost to Lu Ming and fled in a sorry state. He didn't even care about Jin Xing's life. Now he was being suppressed by Chu Baxing. This made Jin Yuan's expression turn ugly. He even began to doubt the Jin family's void severing Tao. No, my Jin family's void severing Tao is the strongest. Jin Yuan roared in his heart. His aura became even more violent. There were 9 golden swords around him. At that moment, the 9 golden swords merged into one and fused into Jin Yuan's body. His body began to change, turning into a golden battle sword. Jin Yuan was going all out. He was going to use his strongest move. The attack power of this move was shocking. Previously, he had used this move to break Lu Ming's ice shackles. Die! Jin Yuan roared. His body turned into a golden sword light and slashed at Chu Baxing. Facing this move, Chu Baxing's expression became serious. He didn't dare to be careless. His body also emitted a dazzling golden light. Strike of the war god! Chu Baxing roared and stabbed out with his spear. A dazzling ray of light shot out from the long spear. Then, a huge figure appeared out of thin air. It was a golden god of war. It was extremely huge, tens of thousands of feet tall. It held a huge spear in its hand. It stabbed out with astonishing speed towards Jin Yuan and collided with the sword light that Jin Yuan had transformed into. Boom! Terrifying whistling sounds could be heard from the void. Strong chi gushed out like a huge wave. The huge golden armored war god trembled violently. Then, cracking sounds could be heard as cracks appeared on its surface. In the end, starting from the long spear, it exploded inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, the entire golden-armored, true god collapsed. Chu Baxing's body trembled as he staggered back several steps. However, Jin Yuan did not have it easy either. The sword he had transformed into was sent flying tens of thousands of meters away. He returned to his human form. His face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Interesting. This move is more like it. Chu Baxing licked his lips and sneered. Jin Yuan snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. He had been at a disadvantage in the confrontation just now. Even his strongest move could not do anything to Chu Baxing. This was a huge blow to him. That Chu Baxing is so strong. Many people looked at Chu Baxing with grave eyes, including the young man in beast skin. I heard that Chu Baxing's family is the clan of war gods. When the Taishu dynasty was first established, his ancestor was a true god of war. His battle prowess was unparalleled. I've heard of it too. However, the younger generation didn't live up to expectations. There was a lack of talent, so they slowly declined. Now, they can only stay in the residence of the 9 Sabers, Heavenly King. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Many people discussed in low voices as they looked at Chu Baxing with grave eyes. Rumble. At that moment, the ground shook violently. It felt as if the sky was falling. Look, what's that? Suddenly, someone pointed at the center of the formation and shouted. Everyone looked over, and then many people's eyes suddenly widened. That was because the ground in that area cracked open and then a huge object rushed out. It was an incomparably huge castle, emitting a dark radiance. At first, only the tip of the castle was revealed, but gradually more and more parts rushed out and also became bigger and bigger. Many people were tongue-tied. They did not expect that there would be a castle underground. Earlier, the runes filled the air and the light soared into the sky. This was a sign that the castle was about to appear. Rumble! The ground shook more and more violently, and the rocks on the ground exploded. A moment later, a huge castle appeared in front of everyone. This was a castle that was 100,000 miles long and wide. It was pitch black, and no one could tell what material it was made of. From afar, it looked like an ancient divine mountain. Around the castle, there was actually a circle of peach trees surrounding the castle in the middle. Each peach tree was so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around it. They were full of peach blossoms, and it was a scene of vitality. When the castle appeared, the runes on the ground also disappeared. Many people's eyes revealed a fiery light. A castle appeared from the ground. It was obvious that no one had ever explored this place before. Could there be treasures inside this castle? The battle between Su Yan and Lu Ji also stopped. Everyone's attention was attracted by the castle. It's a castle. Let's go and take a look. Be careful. Following that, some people began to approach the castle and fly towards it. However, when they got close to the castle, they were blocked by an invisible energy and they could not enter at all. We still can't enter? Some people were greatly disappointed. The runes had disappeared, but they still could not enter. They could only watch helplessly. No, we can enter from this peach forest on foot. Suddenly, someone shouted. That was because someone had tried it earlier. He landed on the ground and rushed towards the peach forest on foot. His figure disappeared into the peach forest. Let's go. Following that, another person rushed into the peach forest. After a few flashes, that person's figure disappeared into the peach forest without a trace. There doesn't seem to be any danger. Let's go too. Immediately, more people rushed into the peach forest. Even Jin Yuan, Su Yan, and the others were tempted. They all moved and charged into the peach forest. Soon, everyone disappeared into the peach forest. The area quieted down. However, about half an hour later, a few youths appeared at the edge of the peach forest with confused faces. Chapter 3039. A few youths appeared at the edge of the peach forest with confused looks on their faces. Why are we out again? What's going on? The youths walked out of the peach forest with puzzled looks on their faces. Following that, more and more people appeared at the edge of the peach forest with puzzled looks on their faces. Not long after, Su Yan, Jin Yuan, Chu Baxing, and the other top prodigies also appeared at the edge of the peach forest. What's going on with you all? Why are you all out? Someone asked. I don't know. I got lost as soon as I entered the peach forest. There's only peach trees in all directions, and no matter how I turned, I couldn't get out. Eventually, I ended up back here. Me too. You're in the same situation as me. The crowd discussed fervently, and they realized that they were in the same situation. Everyone got lost as soon as they entered the peach forest, but they didn't meet anyone else. No matter how they walked, they couldn't get out of the peach forest. In the end, they ended up back where they started. A formation. In the end, they came to the conclusion that the peach forest was a formation that could confuse one's mind. As soon as one walked in, they would be confused and end up back where they started. Let's try from another direction. Someone walked along the perimeter, wanting to try from another direction. However, the castle was surrounded by peach trees. Entering the peach forest from another direction was the same as before, and they ended up back where they started. Every direction had been tested, and the results were all the same. If we can't get in, we'll just have to destroy the formation. Some people were very domineering and directly attacked. One after another, attacks blasted towards the peach forest, wanting to destroy it. As long as the peach forest was destroyed, the formation would break. However, their attacks didn't cause any ripples in the peach forest. The attacks flew into the peach forest and disappeared. Not even a single peach blossom was cut down. Even Jin Yuan, Chu Baxing, and the others tried, but the results were the same. The crowd was helpless. They were high up in the sky, so they could see through the peach forest and see what was going on inside. In fact, they could even see a small path leading to the castle behind the peach forest, and they could even see the gate of the castle. However, they could see it, but they couldn't enter. If they flew into the sky, they would be stopped by an invisible force. If they went underground, they would be stopped by the peach forest formation. They could only see it, but they couldn't enter? What's that? Suddenly, a young man who was observing from high up in the sky exclaimed in shock. What's the situation? Let's go take a look. Immediately, many people rose into the air and flew high into the sky to look inside the castle. At first glance, they were dumbfounded. The reason for that was because they saw a person walking out from one of the castle's gates. After a young man walked out of the door, he glanced left and right, as if he was sizing up his surroundings. How could someone walk out of the castle? Could it be that this person has been living in the castle all this time? Is he someone who has lived since the beginning of the Heavenly Palace era? Someone spoke with a hoarse voice. Many people's expressions changed drastically. How many years had it been since the beginning of the Heavenly Palace era? It was simply impossible to calculate. Even if one were to use stellar years to calculate, it would still be difficult to calculate. It was an extremely long period of time. A divine king could only live for 5 stellar years at most. If someone could live from the early days of the Heavenly Palace to the present, what kind of cultivation would that be? Wait, why does this person look so familiar? Lu Ming, he's Lu Ming. Suddenly, someone from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion shouted. That's right, it's Lu Ming, it's really him. More people from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion shouted. What? He's a Sky Pride from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion? This time, the people from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion were also shocked. But then, they let out a sigh of relief. It turned out that he was just a Sky Pride from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, and not an old monster who had survived from the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. That was good. But how did he get in? Many people had more questions in their minds. The person that everyone saw was indeed Lu Ming. After he killed young Master Heavenly Mantis, the ground shook violently in the sky and earth shook. His position seemed to be rising, and it took a while before it stabilized. After it stabilized, Lu Ming spent some effort to find the exit and walked out of the gate. It's actually a castle. Lu Ming sized it up and was secretly surprised. He did not expect that what emerged from the ground was a castle. There are so many people. Then Lu Ming looked outside and saw that there were many people outside. These people were staring at him. Could it be that these people were attracted by the castle? That's possible. I wonder how Wu Ming and Wu Yu are doing. Let's go out and have a look. Lu Ming's mind raced. He then soared into the air and flew outside. There was no obstruction at all. He directly passed through the range of the peach forest and flew out. There was no power to stop him. He's out. Many people's eyes moved, and they stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked around, trying to find Wu Ming and the others. Suddenly, a powerful aura shrouded Lu Ming. Then, a young man in golden armor stepped out and appeared in front of Lu Ming. His divine power surged like a gust of wind and swept towards Lu Ming. The young man in golden armor was Chu Baxing. Lu Ming furrowed his brows. He circulated his divine power and blocked the pressure. Kid, how did you get in? What did you get in there? Tell me everything. Chu Baxing said in a commanding tone. Who are you? Make way. Lu Ming glanced at Chu Baxing and waved his hand casually. Then he looked in another direction and ignored Chu Baxing. This kid is finished. Many people's hearts skipped a beat. How dare Lu Ming talk to Chu Baxing like that? Was he courting death? After all, only a few people saw the battle between Lu Ming and Jin Yuan. Many people did not know about it, especially those from the 9 Sabres, Heavenly King residence. They looked at Lu Ming with pity, as if they were looking at a dead man. Chu Baxing was famous for his domineering personality. Lu Ming's actions were undoubtedly suicidal. Who am I? Ha ha ha. Sure enough, Chu Baxing laughed coldly. His laughter was filled with cold, killing intent. You'll know who I am very soon, because I'll be your nightmare for the rest of your life. Chu Baxing said again. Then he took a step forward and clawed at Lu Ming. A huge claw formed, and its 5 fingers were like 5 spears. It grabbed at Lu Ming. This move was extremely vicious. If an ordinary person was caught in it, their cultivation would definitely be crippled. However, Lu Ming was no ordinary person. Boom! Lu Ming made his move. A 9-clawed dragon appeared and clawed at Chu Baxing's claw. With a loud boom, Chu Baxing's claw exploded. Chapter 3040. Lu Ming activated the Divine Dragon Aspect art, and a 9-clawed dragon flew out, destroying Chu Baxing's claw. What? He blocked it? Many people were stunned. They didn't expect Lu Ming to be able to block Chu Baxing's attack. Lu Ming is strong, but Chu Baxing didn't use much strength in that attack. It was just a casual attack. Indeed, if Chu Baxing was serious, how could this kid block it? Many people were discussing, especially those from the 9 Sabres, Heavenly King residence. They could see that Lu Ming was only a 5th-layer celestial god. How could he block Chu Baxing's attack? Chu Baxing definitely didn't use much strength. Of course, those who had seen Lu Ming and Jin Yuan's battle didn't think so. They knew how terrifying Lu Ming was. Jin Yuan's eyes flickered with anticipation. He was looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and Chu Baxing. It would be best if both of them were injured. He wanted to get rid of both of them. Even Chu Baxing himself was taken aback for a moment before he replied with a soft nod of acknowledgement. He knew very well how powerful that move was. Indeed, he didn't use much strength in that move. However, an ordinary 9th-level heavenly god wouldn't be able to block that move. Their cultivation would be crippled in an instant. However, Lu Ming was able to block it with just a 5th-layer celestial god. This surprised him. Not bad, you have some strength. No wonder you're so arrogant. However, you're still too inexperienced to be arrogant in front of me, Chu Baxing said coldly. His aura erupted like a volcano, and an ancient aura filled the air, pressing down on Lu Ming. Quintessence God Force Factor. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He knew that he had encountered a peerless expert. Unless one released their aura, it would be difficult to tell that Chu Baxing was a prodigy who had awakened the divine power of origin. Indeed, Lu Ming couldn't tell that Chu Baxing was a prodigy who had awakened the divine power of origin. However, even if Lu Ming had known, his attitude wouldn't have changed. Kneel! Chu Baxing roared as he sent out another palm strike. This move was exactly the same as the previous one. A huge palm grabbed at Lu Ming. However, the aura that it emanated was completely different from the previous move. It was much stronger than the previous move. Even a half-step Divine King Realm genius would be severely injured and suppressed by this attack. Boom! Lu Ming immediately activated the battle formula, quadrupling his combat power as he punched out continuously. Roar, roar, roar. A series of dragon roars rang out as 9 9-clawed dragons appeared and pounced on Chu Baxing's palm. Explosions rang out as the 9 9-clawed dragons exploded one after another. In the end, Chu Baxing's palm was also destroyed. What? Many people were shocked. Lu Ming had actually blocked it again. Chu Baxing's previous move was no small matter. Everyone could feel its power. Many half-step Divine King geniuses felt that they might not be able to block it even if they gave it their all. However, Lu Ming, a level 5 heavenly god, had blocked it. This kid is so strong. Many people were shocked, especially Chu Baxing. While he was shocked, his body emitted a cold, murderous intent. He, Chubaxing, was a peerless genius who had awakened his origin divine force. He was the descendant of the war god. Yet, he couldn't take down Lu Ming in 2 consecutive moves. His eyes darkened as a golden spear appeared in his hand. He was going to be serious. He was going to kill Lu Ming with powerful means. Lu Ming! Brother Lu, it's great that you're fine. At this moment, a few voices could be heard. It was Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and a few others. They were at the periphery and only noticed Lu Ming when they heard the commotion. They quickly flew over. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, stand further away. There's a small matter here. I'll tell you the details after I'm done here. Lu Ming said to Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others. Many people were speechless. How arrogant of him to say that it was a small matter in front of a genius like Chubaxing. He. Chubaxing was so angry that he sneered. It's really lively here. Looks like we're not too late. At this moment, a few cold voices could be heard from afar. This voice was erratic, but it was extremely cold, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts. Then a few black lights could be seen flying over at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, a few figures appeared not far away. One could tell that they were a few young men, but their figures were extremely strange. Their figures were shrouded in a black, ghostly chi. Their bodies seemed to be constantly twisting as if they were illusory. An ice-cold aura was continuously emitted from their bodies. You're from the Juyo Heavenly Lord residence? Someone's expression changed drastically. Looks like you've recognized us. One of the young men with ghostly chi sneered. Many people's expressions changed drastically. The Juyo Heavenly Lord residence was one of the 27 Heavenly Lord residences of the Taishu dynasty. Legend had it that before the Taishu dynasty was established, there was a sect called the Juyo sect. Its strength was amazing and it occupied many starfields. Later, when the Taishu dynasty rose and swept across the universe, the Juyo sect surrendered when they saw that they were no match for them. After the Taishu dynasty was established, the Juyo sect was named one of the 27 Heavenly Lord residences and still ruled the territory of the Juyo sect. Therefore, the people of the Juyo Heavenly Lord residence practiced the cultivation techniques of the Juyo sect. They were extremely evil and terrifying. I've finally found them. Juyo Heavenly Lord residence and 9 Sabers Heavenly Lord residence. So many geniuses and powerful souls. Good. One of the figures laughed. Suddenly, his body flashed and pounced on the few young men closest to him. Those young men were shocked. They shouted angrily and attacked with all their might. However, the young man from the Juyo Heavenly Lord residence did not dodge. It was as if he did not see those attacks. However, something strange happened. When those attacks landed on his body twisted strangely and flickered like a ghost, causing all those attacks to hit nothing. Then, the young man from the Juyo Heavenly Lord residence landed in front of those young men and clawed out. A few ghostly claws appeared and grabbed those young men. Arg! The young men let out miserable shrieks as their souls were pulled out and held in the hands of the other party. Then, the young man from the Juyo Heavenly Lord residence opened his mouth and swallowed the souls of those young men. Those young men's screams stopped abruptly. Such a strange scene made many people gasp in shock. The other party was actually capable of grabbing another person's soul and swallowing it in a single gulp. It was truly too bizarre. Chapter 3041. Awesome. The soul of a genius is indeed different. The taste is too good, The young man from the 9 Nether Heavenly King's mansion laughed excitedly. Is that so? My turn. The other Sky Pride from the 9 Nether Heavenly King's mansion looked expectant as he pounced on the other young men. The young men were shocked and quickly retreated in an attempt to avoid the attack. However, the Sky Pride from the 9 Nether Heavenly King's mansion was extremely fast. In a flash, he was already in front of the young men and launched an attack. The young men's fate was the same as the other young men before him. Their souls were extracted and devoured by the 9 nether heavenly king's mansions, young man. Awesome, it's indeed awesome. It's much better than those ordinary souls. The young man from the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion looked intoxicated as he scanned the crowd with his cold eyes. It was as if he was treating the sky prides present as prey that he could kill at will. The sky prides from the 9 sabers, heavenly king's mansion, and 9 extinction, heavenly king's mansion, turned pale as they retreated. They did not even look at the young man from the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion. You all are courting death. Suddenly, a furious roar could be heard. The person who spoke was Chubaxing. 2 of the young men who had been killed by the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion were Chubaxing's family members. At this moment, the golden radiance on his body became denser as a violent aura emanated from him. Initially, he had wanted to deal with Lu Ming. However, the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion had killed 2 of his family members as soon as they arrived. This infuriated him, and he turned his attention to the sky prides from the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion. Kid, I'll kill those brats first before I deal with you. Chubaxing glared at Lu Ming coldly before he turned into a streak of golden light and charged towards one of the sky prides from the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion. Before he even arrived, a dazzling spear light had already pierced towards the sky prides. Finally, an interesting one. Hee. The sky prides from the 9 nether heavenly king's mansion chuckled as his body twisted even more. Ghostly chi filled the air as a pitch-black, ghostly claw formed and grabbed at Chubaxing. The ghostly claw was filled with an ancient aura. There was no doubt that the prodigy from the 9 nether heavenly king mansion was also someone who had awakened the divine power origin. In fact, there were a total of 3 youths from the Abyss Heavenly King Mansion. All of them had awakened their divine origin power and were among the strongest geniuses in the Abyss Heavenly King Mansion. Therefore, they were the first to arrive. Boom! The resplendent spear aura collided with the ghost claw, causing a violent explosion. The ghost claw trembled violently before collapsing. However, it turned into a strange energy that followed Chubaxing's spear and headed straight for him. Chubaxing's expression changed, and he roared. Golden light burst forth from his body, and he finally managed to push the strange energy away. A heaven's pride that has awakened the origin source, divine force. I believe your soul must be very delicious. Hee. Then I, Yuhan, will be taking your soul. The chosen from the high hells, heavenly king's mansion, let out a cold cry as he charged toward Chubaxing. Ghostly chi surged from Yuhan's body as she charged forward. Like a black fog, it enveloped Chubaxing. Within the ghost chi, one could hear the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. The sound was so eerie that it made one's heart race and soul tremble. It was as if one's soul was about to jump out of their body. This attack can affect one's soul. Retreat. Many people's faces changed as they retreated, putting as much distance as they could between themselves and Yuhan. Chubaxing was clearly affected, and the golden light around his body trembled. Abyss Ghost Claw. Yuhan roared, and a cold, ghostly claw swiped at Chubaxing, trying to grab his soul. Strike of the War God. Chubaxing roared as he thrust his spear forward. Suddenly, a humongous god of war appeared in the sky, thrusting his spear at Yuhan. Boom! The war god's spear struck the ghostly claw, causing it to disintegrate into mist that filled the sky. Interesting. You're from the war god clan. Your soul must be even more delicious. Abyss prison. Yuhan shrieked. His body turned into a ghostly shadow and fused into the black mist. The black mist spread, enveloping Chubaxing and the war god. You want to deal with me with your unorthodox methods? Dream on. Die. Die. Chubaxing roared as the war god swept his spear forward, trying to disperse the black mist. However, the black mist was impossible to disperse, and once it was dispersed, it would gather back together. Furthermore, The cries of ghosts and howls of wolves could be heard from within the black mist, affecting Chu Baxing's soul. The two of them clashed within the black mist, and Chu Baxing was at a disadvantage. The attacks of the high hell's heavenly king's mansion are strange. They can affect one's soul directly. It's similar to Shaman Shui. Lu Ming thought, Shaman Shui and his fellow disciples' attacks could affect one's soul too. The only difference was that Shaman Shui and his fellow disciples used poison gas. On the other hand, the people from the high hell's heavenly king's mansion were using some unknown method. Boom! Boom! A violent collision occurred within the black mist. Not long after, the war god that Chu Baxing had created exploded, and Chu Baxing was forced to retreat until he was out of the range of the black mist. His body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Baxing was injured. Many people were shocked. They knew how powerful Chu Baxing was. He had the upper hand against Jin Yuan, and even Jin Yuan was no match for him. But now he was being beaten to the point of spitting blood by Yu Han. How could Yu Han be so strong? The descendant of the war god is only SOO. He die. Yu Han's figure flashed, and he pounced on Chu Baxing. Brother Chu, I'll help you, Lu Ji said. Then he unsheathed his saber, and a resplendent saber ray slashed at Yu Han. Wherever the saber ray passed, the black mist formed by Yu Han would churn, but it would quickly gather back together. Die. Chu Baxing caught his breath and charged at Yu Han once more. His spear ray was larger than a mountain, and it seemed like it would pierce through the void. Boom! Boom! Chu Baxing and Lu Ji's joint attack was too terrifying. Explosions occurred in the void, and a powerful shockwave was formed. The black mist formed by Yu Han could no longer withstand the attack, and it was dispersed. Yu Han's figure appeared not far away in a flash. 2 against 1? Are you trying to bully me? I'll accompany you in this battle. Another youth from the high hell's heavenly king's mansion stepped out, exuding a powerful aura. There's no need for that. Just watch from the side. I alone am enough to deal with the two of them. Yu Han waved his hand and stopped the prodigy from the high hell's heavenly king's mansion. Chapter 3042. Yu Han waved his hand and stopped the young man from the 9 Nether Heavenly King Palace. The young man stopped and glanced at Yu Han. He did not say anything and silently retreated to the side, as if he was afraid of Yu Han. Xiao Meng. Come, both of you, come at me together. Yu Han looked at Chu Baxing and Lu Ji. Many people were shocked. Yu Han wanted to fight Chu Baxing and Lu Ji alone? Where did he get the confidence to do so? One should know that they were both half-step divine kings and had awakened their divine origin. Their talents were shockingly high. Even if there was a gap between them, the gap would be limited. It was extremely difficult to fight two at once. But now Yu Han was challenging Chu Baxing and Lu Ji at the same time. Chu Baxing and Lu Ji's eyes flashed with cold light. Arrogant. Since you want to die, we'll fulfill your wish. Lu Ji, let's attack together. Chu Baxing shouted. Kill. Lu Ji was even more straightforward. He held his blade with both hands and slashed out a blade light that was tens of thousands of meters long towards Yu Han. The blade light slashed down as if it was going to split the heavens and earth. The void trembled as a terrifying force pressed down on Yu Han. Lu Ji's attack was simple, but its power was terrifying and overbearing. One slash, and the enemy was killed. Strike of the War God. Chu Baxing roared and used the strike of the War God again. However, the God of War strike this time had undergone a huge change. This time the War God that was formed was much smaller, only 10 feet tall. But this time it was riding on a war horse. The war horse galloped through the void and charged towards Yu Han. It was much more agile than before. Come, I'll show you the ultimate technique of the 9 Nether Heavenly King Palace. Hee. Yu Han sneered. His body twisted in a strange manner and rushed forward like a shadow. His speed was extremely fast, flickering in the air like a ghost. Lu Ji's blade light and Chu Baxing's strike of the war god landed on his body. His body twisted slightly to disperse the power, and he charged towards Chu Baxing with extreme speed. "Your soul is mine," Yu Han said coldly and clawed at Chu Baxing. "Get lost," Chu Baxing roared. Dazzling golden light erupted like a volcano, and a huge spear light swept across the air. However, Yu Han's body continued to twist and distort. Every time she twisted, she would be able to divert a portion of the energy away from Chu Baxing. Chu Baxing's body swayed, and the golden light around him trembled as if it was greatly affected. Yu Han took the opportunity to launch a series of attacks, forcing Chu Baxing to retreat. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, Lu Ji arrived and slashed out thousands of saber lights, forming a net of saber chi that enveloped Yu Han. Yu Han finally gave up on attacking Chu Baxing and dodged the net of sabers with a flicker of his body. He's attack us not far away Baxing Yu Han, Baxing Master Yu Han, Baxing Yu Han's Baxing. He realized that although Yu Han's cultivation method was strange, it wasn't impossible to attack. It was just that when he was attacked, he could dissipate some of the power. However, if he was attacked, he would still be injured. It's just that the art that affects the soul is a little troublesome. Lu Ming thought, how should he deal with the abysmal Heavenly King Palace's Skype rides? Whoosh! Yu Han evaded Lu Ji's attack. His eyes flashed coldly as his body turned into a sword shadow, a long sword that looked like a shadow shot towards Lu Ji. Extermination! Slash! Lu Ji roared and slashed out with his saber. Boom! The saber light and Yu Han's sword shadow clashed. A loud boom was heard, and vast energy swept out in all directions as if it was going to devour everything. Yu Han's shadow shook violently and flew back. However, there was a strange force rushing towards Lu Ji. Lu Ji's body trembled. In an instant, he seemed to have suffered a great disturbance, and his aura weakened. Die! Yu Han roared and took the opportunity to attack Lu Ji. However, Chu Baxing arrived and intercepted Yu Han. Seeing this, many people's faces turned solemn. Yu Han's frontal attack might not be very strong, but his methods were strange and impossible to guard against. If Lu Ji and Chu Baxing had not joined forces, they would not be Yu Han's match. Chu Baxing and Lu Ji worked together to fight Yu Han. However, it was difficult to determine the outcome of the battle. No one could do anything to the other. Rumble! Right at this moment, a strange change occurred in the castle. The ground around the castle started to shake. The peach trees that were so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them started to change. The peach trees were originally blooming with flowers, but at that moment the flowers on the trees started to fall and wither rapidly. Soon, all the peach trees became bare. Then the trunks started to shrivel as if their vitality had been sucked out. Such a strange scene caused Chu Baxing and the other two to end their battle. They stood on two sides and observed the changes in the peach forest. The peach trees are moving. No, they're alive! Suddenly someone exclaimed. When the trunks of the peach trees were shriveled to a certain extent, they started to move. Roots extended from the ground, and eyes and mouths even appeared on the trunks. Roar! Then these peach trees actually let out a roar like that of a desolate beast. Their roots were like feet as they strode toward Lu Ming and the rest. Demonic trees. The peach trees had turned into demonic trees and attacked the group. However, the group was not surprised. Instead, they were overjoyed. They thought of something. If the peach trees had turned into demonic trees, did that mean that the formation had been broken? Kill these demonic trees, and we might be able to enter the castle. Kill! Many people charged at the demonic trees. Roar! Whoosh! 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 The demonic trees roared, and their roots lashed out at the group like soft whips. Uft! Some of the weaker cultivators had their bodies pierced by the roots and died on the spot. However, only a few of them were killed. Many of the demonic trees were destroyed. Experts like Chu Baxing, Lu Ji, and Yu Han would kill several demonic trees each time they attacked. Some were cut into pieces, some were blasted to pieces, and some were burned to ashes. Soon, a large number of demonic trees were killed. Many people charged toward the castle. This time, there was really no obstruction. The group easily passed through the area around the castle and charged in different directions. However, not everyone charged toward the castle. Some of the weaker ones maintained their rationality and did not charge in. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, Wu Zixiong, and Lu Ming did not enter either. Chapter 3043. Brother Wu Ming, Brother Wu Yu, Brother Zixiong, aren't you guys going in? Lu Ming asked Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others. No, too many experts have gone in. There are more than a dozen of them who have awakened their divine origin force. With so many experts, we won't be able to gain anything even if we go in. We might as well not go in. Wu Zixiong shook his head and said, helplessly. To be honest, they were also tempted by the sudden appearance of an underground castle. However, they knew their limits. There were too many Skype rides who were stronger than them and could kill them. Even if they went in, they wouldn't be able to compete with others, even if there were treasures inside. Instead, there was a risk of dying. They might as well try their luck elsewhere in Xingyue Ancient City. Now that most of the Skype rides had entered the castle, there would be no competition if there were any opportunities in other places. There were many who had the same idea as Wu Zixiong. Of course, they weren't particularly strong. That's good too. However, I plan to go in and take a look. By the way, have you guys found the whereabouts of my girlfriend, Mid-Autumn Moon? Lu Ming asked with an expectant look. Unfortunately, Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others shook their heads and said, we've asked many people during this period, but unfortunately we didn't get any news. No news? Lu Ming whispered as he became more and more worried. However, Xingyue Ancient City was huge. How could he find her in such a short time? He could only hope that Mid-Autumn Moon would be lucky. Then I'll have to trouble you guys to keep an eye out for any news about Mid-Autumn Moon. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Brother Lu, don't worry. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others cupped their fists. Lu Ming nodded, then turned and rushed towards the castle. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Immediately, a few devil trees waved their roots and charged towards Lu Ming. I'll burn you guys with fire. Lu Ming was in a bad mood. He channeled his sun god power and stabbed a few times. Several spear lights condensed from sun god power bombarded the roots of the demon tree. The sun god power immediately turned into raging flames that burned the roots of the demon tree. Moreover, with astonishing speed, it flowed along the roots of the demon tree and surged into the demon tree's entire body. Very quickly, the devil trees were burned to ashes by the sun god power. Whoosh, 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 the devil trees were afraid of fire. Wherever Lu Ming went, the devil trees would burn and turn into ashes. Lu Ming easily dodged the Trent's attack and rushed inside. I didn't expect that we can't fly inside. Lu Ming pursed his lips. When he came out, there was no restriction at all. Then Lu Ming looked around. Naturally, there was no need for him to enter the door that he had come out of. Lu Ming had already explored it before, and there was nothing inside. Around the castle, there were ancient bluestone roads that led to different directions. The people who had rushed into this place before had all chosen different ancient paths to advance. Which one should I choose? Forget it, I'll just choose one. Lu Ming muttered. Then he randomly chose a path and rushed forward. Following this path, Lu Ming walked all the way to the end and found another door. A few figures flashed and rushed in through this door. Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed in as well. Behind the door was a very long passage. Lu Ming walked for hundreds of miles before reaching the end of the passage. At the end of the passage was a huge stone chamber. The stone chamber was very large and spacious. As soon as Lu Ming entered, he saw many young geniuses standing in the stone chamber and looking forward. That is, Lu Ming looked forward and his expression changed. On one side of the stone chamber, there were figures sitting cross-legged. However, these figures had become skeletons. Yes, there were skeletons sitting cross-legged there. At a glance, there were about 300 of them. These figures were of different races. There were humans, dragon men, tiger men, and so on. Their clothes were tattered, and only their skeletons were left. The surface of the skull was also gray and gloomy. "Are these people the elites of Xingyue Ancient City?" someone asked. "This castle is buried deep underground. These people are most likely the elites of Xingyue Ancient City. Aren't they the people from the early Heavenly Palace era? This is too terrifying. After so many years, their skeletons are still intact. What cultivation level were these people when they were alive?" Some people were talking about it, and they were shocked. As far as they knew, even a peak supreme god would not be able to preserve their skeletons after so many years. They would have turned into ashes long ago. If these skeletons were really from the early Heavenly Palace era, they must have a shocking background. Unfortunately, when the crowd looked at the skeletons, they did not find anything. They wanted to see if there were any storage rings left, but too much time had passed, and even the storage rings had turned into ashes. "These people don't seem to have any injuries. How did they die?" Suddenly, someone said. The crowd fell silent. That was right. These skeletons looked very intact, and there were no injuries. They did not seem to have been killed. Moreover, they were sitting there neatly as if they were guarding something. Could it be that these people sat there cross-legged and finally died of old age? This thought appeared in the crowd's mind, and they were dumbfounded. They sat there and died of old age. This idea was unbelievable. However, the scene in front of them made them think that way. There's a stone door in front of them. Could it be that these people are sitting here to guard that stone door? Someone else said, and many people's eyes lit up. Indeed, there was a stone door behind these skeletons, and it was tightly shut. Could it be that there was a treasure inside, and that was why these people were sitting there to guard this place? However, no one went forward for a while. Who knew if there was any danger ahead? In fact, no one dared to even touch those skeletons. Most of these people were extremely powerful when they were alive. Even if they had died many years ago, if they left behind something with their cultivation level, they would not be able to bear the consequences. Everyone looked at each other. They all wanted someone else to scout the way first. This place was left from the early Heavenly Palace era. So many years have passed. No matter what it is, it should have disappeared. Even if it's a formation, it can't last for so many years. I don't believe there's any danger here. Finally, someone couldn't hold it in any longer. A young man shouted as he stepped forward and walked towards the door. However, he was still afraid and did not dare to touch those skeletons. Instead, he walked around those skeletons and walked toward the stone door. Nothing unusual happened along the way, and the young man successfully arrived in front of the stone door. Everyone's eyes fell on the young man, and they were curious and expectant. Some of them were even ready to snatch the treasure if it was really behind the stone door. Crack! The young man pushed with all his might. Chapter 3044. The young man did not dare to approach the stone door. He used his divine power to form a palm and placed it on the stone door, pushing it with all his might. Follow. Dream? Come click. The stone door slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black passageway. From beginning to end, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Haha, I told you so many years have passed. There can't be any threat. You cowards. The young man laughed proudly. However, in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. His body was like a startled grasshopper. He jumped up and retreated 1,000 meters. Not only him, but the expressions of the others also changed. At that moment, the skeletons sitting on the ground underwent a shocking change. These skeletons were suffused with white light. As the white light spread out, the skeletons' bodies actually disintegrated into white powder and flew into the air. All the skeletons were the same. Starting from their heads, they disintegrated into white powder and drifted into the air. Soon, all the skeletons disappeared and turned into white powder. The powder gathered in the air and emitted a dazzling white light. Then the white light turned into an image that floated in the air. In the image, there were more than 300 powerhouses of different races. These powerhouses were standing in a secret room. Everyone could tell at a glance that the secret room was almost the same as the stone room. It was not difficult to guess that the 300 powerhouses were very likely the 300 skeletons from before. Could this be the image of those powerhouses when they were alive? Someone guessed. Many people nodded. That was most likely the case. At that moment, the 300 powerhouses in the image all raised their hands and spoke loudly as if they were swearing an oath. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. Voices echoed in the stone room. The voices of the people in the image could be heard clearly. Voices continued to echo in the room. After a few minutes, the voices finally disappeared. The image also slowly dissipated, and the stone room became empty. However, many people had thoughtful looks in their eyes. It was not hard to guess from the conversation that the 300 or so experts had sworn an oath to guard the natal spirit stone. As such, they sat there cross-legged until they died of old age. Then, what was a life spirit vitality stone? Was it worth so many experts protecting it with their lives? Moreover, it seemed like the vitality stone was here. It was very likely that it was behind the stone door. Many people's eyes began to fill with a fiery radiance. Although they did not know what a life spirit vitality stone was, they knew that the life spirit vitality stone was extremely valuable. However, it was definitely a treasure that was worth so many experts, who were most likely above the godly king realm, to guard with their lives. It was very likely that it was a peerless treasure left behind in Star Moon Ancient City during the early days of the Heavenly Palace. How much was this treasure worth? Many people revealed burning greed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly someone moved. With a flicker, he rushed toward the passage behind the stone gate. Go! The treasure is mine. As soon as one person moved, the others followed suit. They all rushed towards the passageway. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming also moved. He followed the crowd and rushed toward the passage. The passage behind the stone gate was very wide. It could accommodate thousands of people walking side by side. Moreover, there were stone statues on both sides of the passage. They looked like they were about to decay. Many of the stone statues were covered with cracks. The crowd did not care and rushed forward with all their might. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, the stone statues on both sides of the passage moved. These stone statues shot toward Lu Ming and the others. Some of the stone statues brandished stone swords, while others brandished stone spears. The power was astonishing. There were a few consecutive screams. A few young men were careless and were hit by the stone statues. They were killed on the spot. Many people reacted quickly and hurriedly blocked, but they were also injured. Whoosh! There was a whistling sound as a stone sword slashed toward Lu Ming's head at an astonishing speed. Roar! Without thinking, Lu Ming punched out. A 9-clawed dragon condensed and pounced forward. It collided with the stone sword with a loud bang. Lu Ming's body trembled and he floated back. What a powerful force! There was a trace of seriousness in Lu Ming's eyes. After exchanging a move with the stone statues, he realized that the strength of these stone statues was astonishing. Whoosh! After the stone statue was blocked, it brandished its stone sword again and charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming directly activated the battle character art and quadrupled his battle strength. A high-grade 9 divine weapon appeared in his hand. He swung his spear. Clang! The long spear and the stone sword collided with a loud bang. Finally, the stone statue was sent flying by Lu Ming. A few pieces of stone fell from the stone sword, and there were more cracks. These stone statues have been here for so many years. They are covered in cracks, but they still have such strength. I wonder how terrifying they were at their peak. Lu Ming exclaimed inwardly. These stone statues were covered in cracks and looked like they were about to fall apart. However, their power was still astonishing. If they were in perfect condition, even a godly king would be killed if they entered. Perhaps it was more than that. Kill! Lu Ming's mind spun rapidly as he continued to charge forward, his long spear constantly sweeping at the stone statue. With the quadrupled battle strength of the battle character art, Lu Ming completely suppressed the stone statue. After 7 or 8 consecutive collisions, the stone statue fell to the ground with a loud bang and completely fell apart, turning into a pile of rubble. At this time, the other Sky Prides also began to counterattack. Stone statues were constantly smashed into rubble. After Lu Ming destroyed a stone statue, he continued to move forward. Not long after, Lu Ming was attacked by another stone statue. However, Lu Ming easily shattered it. Just like that, he continued to move forward, killing along the way. There were many stone statues on both sides of the passage. It was not difficult to guess that a long time ago, the more than 300 experts in the stone room were guarding the first level, and these stone statues here were guarding the second level. However, due to the long passage of time, those experts guarding the place had long fallen and turned into ashes. As for these stone statues, they were close to decaying and did not have much strength left. Otherwise, with their cultivation, they would be courting death if they entered. Even so, there were still people falling. Of course, those who fell were not very strong. Generally, they were half-step godly kings. If they were careful, they could still deal with them. This passage was very long. After rushing for a few hundred miles, they still had not reached the end. However, there were no more stone statues on both sides of the passage. Many people secretly heaved a sigh of relief and continued forward. Chapter 3045. The others were shocked, and they quickly stopped and watched. There were no more stone statues in front of the passage, but there was a formation. Obviously, a formation had been carved into the passage, and it was likely to be even more terrifying than the stone statues. How is that possible? How many years has it been since the early days of the Heavenly Palace? The formation carved there hasn't decayed and is still working? Someone said in disbelief. Many people had grave expressions. It was obvious how terrifying the person who set up the formation back then was. His strength was unfathomable. He was definitely someone stronger than a godly king. Only an extremely terrifying existence could carve runes that were still effective after such a long time. No one can escape the punishment of time. No matter how powerful an existence is, they will still fall. Runes are the same. They are carved with energy. After such a long time, I don't believe that the array can still maintain its power. I guess there is only a little bit of energy left. Someone said. Many people nodded in agreement. However, no one went forward. Even so, what if the remaining energy of the formation was enough to kill them? If that was the case, they would still die if they went forward. Let's test it out with a divine artifact. Someone took out a divine artifact battle sword, brushing past the battle sword as it flew forward. Whoosh! When the divine artifact battle sword flew past, it seemed to be sensed. Runes appeared on both sides of the passage. Then, a divine light flashed and struck the divine artifact battle sword. Clang! The divine artifact battle sword vibrated a little, leaving a shallow mark on it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then the runes in the passage continued to flash, and a few more divine lights blasted toward the divine artifact battle sword. The divine artifact battle sword vibrated continuously, but it was not broken. Only a shallow mark was left on it. It can block it. Many people's eyes lit up. The power of the formation was not that strong. The divine artifact just now was a superior grade 9 divine artifact. If it could block it, then they could pass. Everyone present was a top prodigy who did not have a few superior grade 9 divine artifacts. Let's go forward and try. Following that, a few more people controlled their divine artifacts and flew forward. There had always been formations in front of them, but they were all blocked by the divine artifact. They couldn't break through the divine artifact. Haha! As expected, after so many years, there isn't much power left in this formation. We can pass through. Go! A young man smiled, and a suit of armor appeared on his body, covering his entire body. This armor was a 9th Order upper grade defensive artifact. After putting on the armor, the young man stepped forward. As soon as he entered the area of the formation, the runes began to shine, and a divine light shot towards him. However, the divine light bombarded the armor and was blocked by it. That person continued forward, going deeper and deeper. Let's go, let's go! Set off. More and more people stepped forward, taking out all kinds of defensive divine artifacts. Some people took out their shields, while others took out their battle armors and put them on before charging into the passageway. Clang, clang, clang. On the walls and ground of the passage, symbols flickered continuously, turning into divine light to attack them. They bombarded all types of defensive divine artifacts, releasing intense vibrations, as if iron was being forged. However, the power of the divine light was ultimately limited. They continued to move forward, and many people disappeared in front of them. Lu Ming also took out 2 defensive divine artifacts to protect himself and rushed forward. Along the way, they did not encounter too much danger. The remaining energy of the formations was limited. In some areas, there were even no runes. They successfully passed through the passageway. When they successfully passed through the passageway and reached the end of the passageway, at the end of the passageway was another huge secret chamber. There were some shelves in the secret chamber. On them were some jade bottles and weapons. Everyone's eyes lit up and they rushed over. Someone hurriedly grabbed a weapon. However, when they grabbed the weapon and shook it slightly, the weapon directly shattered and fell to the ground. It's useless. It's become scrap metal, that person whispered. The others were similar. They picked up the weapons on the shelves and found that they had all become scrap metal. They had lost their spirituality. Some people picked up the jade bottles and found that those jade bottles contained divine pills. However, as too much time had passed, those divine pills had lost their medicinal effects and became useless. Sigh. Many people sighed. They had worked hard to come here and found treasures, but unfortunately they were all useless. It couldn't be that there was nothing left in this castle and everything had become a pile of trash, right? Many people thought so. I don't think so. Some peerless treasures can retain their power even after a long time. There are also some treasures that can retain their power if they are protected by a formation. These treasures are probably not of high levels, and they don't have a formation to protect them. That's why they're like this. Some people said. Then everyone looked around. They found that there were doors in all directions of the secret chamber. The doors were open, and they did not know where they led to. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Someone moved and rushed to a door. Then the others also moved and rushed to another door. They had passed through many checkpoints. Logically speaking, it was time for them to reap the rewards. Perhaps there would be treasures with intact spirituality left behind. In particular, the life, spirit, primordial stones that were heavily protected were even more tempting. Lu Ming also rushed to a door. Behind the door was a corridor. As they walked along the corridor, they found many rooms. There were many people who walked in this direction. Everyone explored the rooms, but unfortunately, they did not find anything. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent explosion in front of them. Obviously, someone was fighting. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he rushed forward. After passing through a corridor, he arrived at a courtyard. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, he saw a few young people fighting fiercely. In this courtyard, there were several large chests. There were faint flashes of runes on these large boxes. Obviously, a formation had been set up on these large boxes to protect the treasures in the boxes. The treasures in the boxes were very likely to retain their spirituality. These were left behind by many powerful existences during the early period of the Heavenly Palace era. Any one of these treasures was probably priceless. These people's eyes were red as they fought fiercely. I found this place first. Get lost. A young man shouted. Those who see it have a share, don't you know? Another young man sneered in response. Then die. The young man from before shouted. However, as more and more people came, the courtyard fell into a chaotic battle. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he did not make a move immediately. Wouldn't it be better to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight? There were many people who had the same thoughts as him. On the side, there were several other young people standing tall. Whoosh! Suddenly, Lu Ming sensed a cold, murderous intent rushing toward him. Chapter 3046. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt a cold, murderous intent spreading toward him. At the same time, a terrifying force pierced toward the back of Lu Ming's head. It was unusually sharp. Lu Ming's spiritual senses were extremely sharp, so he immediately sensed it. He activated the Nine Heavens Kuan Peng technique and dodged the attack in a flash. Then Lu Ming turned back and saw a young man wearing armor and holding a long spear appear at the place where Lu Ming was standing just now. This young man wasn't Chu Baxing, but he was dressed similarly to Chu Baxing. Who are you? Lu Ming asked coldly. Young Master Chu Baxing didn't kill you, so I'll kill you in his place. The young man said coldly. His tone was domineering, as if Lu Ming was going to die. It seems like you're one of Chu Baxing's men. Lu Ming smiled faintly, but his smile was filled with terrifying killing intent. Since this person wanted to kill him, he was already a dead man in his eyes. That's right. There's no need for young Master Chu Baxing to personally deal with trash like you. Since you've offended young Master Chu Baxing, you should be prepared to die. The young man said coldly. His armor glowed, and his aura was as heavy as a mountain. Whoosh! The young man took a step forward and stabbed his spear at Lu Ming with shocking speed. Before the spear gleam arrived, a terrifying and sharp aura had already charged toward Lu Ming. Awakened God Force 99%. As soon as the young man attacked, Lu Ming could sense that his God Force had already awakened to 99%. It was no wonder he was so confident. Unless he encountered geniuses like Jin Yuan and Chu Baxing, he would be invincible. Not to mention, Lu Ming was only a 5th-level celestial god. Although Lu Ming had exchanged 2 blows with Chu Baxing and displayed extraordinary strength, Chu Baxing hadn't used his full strength, and Lu Ming hadn't transformed into his ancient god body. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lu Ming. He had miscalculated. Roar. With the roar of an ancient god, Lu Ming transformed into his ancient god body. His terrifying aura erupted like a volcano. Whong! Lu Ming's long spear shook and swept out, hitting the opponent's long spear. The opponent's long spear shook violently and then directly flew out of his hand. The terrifying power directly caused the arm of the Chu clan's young man to explode. Ancient god body. Green-armored ancient god body. Damn it! The young man from the Chu clan roared, his eyes filled with terror. He knew that he had encountered a monster. Without the slightest hesitation, he retreated, intending to inform Chu Baxing of what had happened. However, how could Lu Ming allow him to retreat? Sky-piercing, Lu Ming said coldly as he executed the 3rd strike of annihilation. A resplendent spear ray shot out and caught up to the young man from the Chu clan in an instant. Puff! The spear light pierced through the forehead of the young man from the Chu clan, killing him. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming collected the Chu clan youth's spatial ring. Then he turned his gaze to the 2 chests in the courtyard. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward, his 100-meter-tall figure stepping into the courtyard. His aura spread out in all directions. The young men who were in the midst of battle were shocked when they sensed Lu Ming's terrifying aura. They stopped their battle and looked at Lu Ming with grave expressions. These 2 chests are mine. All of you scram. Lu Ming said domineeringly. His words made the young men's faces turn ugly. Humph, you might be strong, but you want to monopolize the treasure by yourself? Do you think you're someone like Chu Baxing? A young man holding a silver saber said coldly. This person came from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King residence, so he was naturally unhappy with Lu Ming. That's right. You want to monopolize it, and you want us to scram as well. Hee. Let's join forces and make him scram. Another young man said coldly. Just now, Lu Ming had killed the Chu clan youth, but there were so many of them here that they weren't afraid of Lu Ming. They didn't believe that Lu Ming was as strong as someone like Chu Baxing when he was only a 5th-level heaven god. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, Lu Ming said coldly. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with them. He brandished his spear and pressed it down on the young men. The spear light was so huge that it filled the entire courtyard, making it impossible for the young men to dodge. Let's join forces and get rid of this brat first. Then we'll fight for the treasure. All right, let's join forces. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, the youths in the courtyard struck together and launched a terrifying attack toward Lu Ming. There were a total of 9 young men, and each of them was a peak expert. They had awakened their god force to 80 to 90%. Their attacks collided with Lu Ming's giant spear light, resulting in a deafening explosion. Strong gusts of wind swept across the place like a grade 18 gust of wind. The next moment, the 9 young geniuses' bodies shuddered violently. They spat out mouthfuls of blood at the same time and were sent flying like cannonballs. They either slammed into the ground or the walls. Their bodies twitched as they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Luckily, the walls and ground were extremely sturdy, thus they did not shatter into pieces. However, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Even the geniuses of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Emperor Palace were in disbelief. It was unbelievable that Lu Ming's strength had reached such a level. The 9 young men kept spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at Lu Ming. They could not believe that a 5th-layer heaven god was so strong. Even with the 9 of them teaming up, they still couldn't withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. Now leave. Lu Ming snapped coldly. Let's go. The young men did not dare to stay any longer. They immediately left the place. In the blink of an eye, not a single one was left. Lu Ming was about to transform into his normal form to check the 2 boxes when a cold laugh could be heard. Who would have thought a 5th-layer heaven god would be so strong? Interesting, very interesting. As soon as the voice was heard, a figure with an eerie aura appeared in the residence with a flicker. Someone from the 9 Serenities, Heavenly Emperor Palace. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and blurted out involuntarily. The person was not Yuhan, but one of the 3 geniuses of the 9 Serenities' Heavenly Emperor Palace that had come with Yuhan. This person looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. He stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lips. He sneered and said, I really want to taste your soul. I can smell it. Your soul must be very delicious. Is that so? I'm afraid you won't be able to enjoy it. Lu Ming said with a calm smile. Even though your ancient god flesh has evolved into a blue-armored ancient god, it's useless against me. Your soul belongs to me, Yulian. As soon as his laughter died down, Yulian's figure pounced on Lu Ming like a shadow. His speed was shockingly fast, just like a phantom. In a flash, he was right in front of Lu Ming. Chapter 3047. In a flash, Yulian was right in front of Lu Ming. His speed was shockingly fast. Get lost! Lu Ming roared. His spear radiance surged and his aura erupted like a torrent. A crescent-shaped spear radiance slashed towards Yulian. However, Yulian's body flickered and twisted like a ghost. He dodged Lu Ming's attack by a hair's breadth and continued to pounce towards Lu Ming. Void break! Void break! Lu Ming's long spear vibrated and stabbed out. In an instant, he had stabbed out more than 10 times. More than 10 meteor-like spear radiance pierced towards Yulian, sealing off the space around him. Yu Lian could only face this attack head-on. 9 Nether Ghost Claw. Yu Lian shouted and clawed out. The ghost claw flashed and caught the spear radiance. The spear radiance vibrated and collapsed. Yu Lian appeared in front of Lu Ming in a flash and clawed at Lu Ming. His speed was so fast that Lu Ming almost couldn't react in time. Fortunately, Lu Ming had already activated the 9-layered golden armor and covered his entire body. Bang! Yu Lian's ghost claw clawed at the 9-layered golden armor, causing it to vibrate continuously. Block it for me! Lu Ming roared and activated the 9-layered golden armor to the extreme. The divine force in his body rushed towards the 9-layered golden armor. Chi! Yu Lian's ghost claw clawed at the 9-layered golden armor, and his finger pierced through it. However, it wasn't easy as it was met with great resistance. What's going on with your divine force? Yu Lian's expression changed drastically. He sensed it carefully and screamed, Your divine force! So many divine-grade divine forces. How can you control so many divine-grade divine forces? Yu Lian shouted in disbelief. His 9 nether ghost claw clashed with Lu Ming's 9-layered golden armor. He could clearly feel that Lu Ming could control so many divine-grade divine forces. This was unbelievable. No amount of divine power can stop me, Yu Lian screamed. A ghost-like wail and wolf-like howl came from his body. His ghost claw flashed with a black light, penetrated Lu Ming's 9-layered golden armor, and grabbed onto Lu Ming's body. Creak, creak, creak. An ear-piercing sound rang out as the 9 serenities ghost clawed at the green scales. The scales were torn apart and bloody marks appeared. That wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that the 9 nether ghost claw had a strange energy that directly passed through Lu Ming's body and into his soul, causing Lu Ming's soul to tremble. When one's soul trembled, one's control over divine power would weaken. This caused Lu Ming's aura to tremble and weaken slightly. Seizing the opportunity, Yu Lian grabbed a piece of flesh from Lu Ming's body. Roar! A roar came from Lu Ming's throat as he retreated a few hundred meters, distancing himself from Yu Lian. Ha ha ha! I didn't expect that you could control so many divine-grade divine forces. No wonder you're so strong. Kid, tell me your cultivation technique. Yu Lian laughed and stared greedily at Lu Ming. He felt that Lu Ming must have cultivated a supreme technique to be able to control so many kinds of divine-grade divine powers. If he could get his hands on such a heaven-defying technique, he would definitely soar into the sky and become a peerless genius, the brightest star in the sky. His heart was burning with passion. You want my technique? Sure. Let's see if you have the ability to do so, Lu Ming said coldly, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. Since Yu Lian knew his secret, he must die. This matter must not be spread out. Kid, don't think that I can't kill you. Die! Yu Lian screamed. Her figure flashed, and she dashed toward Lu Ming again. Her aura was faintly stronger than before. Obviously, Yu Lian had used all her strength. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars sounded continuously. Lu Ming used the mystical dragon aspect technique while waving his long spear to fight Yu Lian. However, Yu Lian's movement technique was extremely strange. His body didn't seem to be made of flesh and blood. Lu Ming's attacks didn't seem to cause much damage to him. On the other hand, Yu Lian's attacks on Lu Ming's body would cause Lu Ming's soul to tremble every time. With his soul trembling, Lu Ming couldn't unleash his full strength. After dozens of exchanges, Lu Ming's body had a few more wounds and fresh blood flowed. Old Liang, can't you absorb his strange energy? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring word incantation. The other party's energy that affected the soul was too strange and impossible to guard against. Lu Ming couldn't unleash his full strength. If not for the influence of this energy, Lu Ming wouldn't be afraid of the other party and could even defeat him. After dozens of battles, Lu Ming realized that the other party wasn't immune to his attacks. It was just that the other party's movement technique was strange and could dissipate part of the power. Lu Ming's attack could still cause damage to the other party, especially the divine power that had awakened the origin divine power factor. The damage to the other party was even greater. However, Lu Ming couldn't deal with the energy that attacked the soul. He could only ask the measuring word incantation for help. No. Unexpectedly, the measuring word incantation answered directly. No. You can even absorb the poisonous gas that affected my soul with the shaman blood? Why can't you? Lu Ming asked. That kind of poisonous gas is just a kind of energy that has no consciousness. I can naturally absorb it. However, this person's attack contains his personal will and is completely controlled by the other party. Naturally, I can absorb it. If I can absorb it, wouldn't I be able to directly absorb the divine power of others? The measuring word incantation asked. Lu Ming was speechless. Indeed, what the shaman blood used was just a kind of poisonous gas. The power that Yu Lian used was a kind of strange divine power that contained Yu Lian's spiritual will. Just like what the measuring word incantation said, if he could even absorb this, then when Lu Ming encountered an enemy, as long as he released the measuring word incantation, wouldn't he be able to directly devour the other party's divine power? Obviously, the measuring word incantation couldn't do that. Boom! At this time, Yu Lian attacked Lu Ming again, causing his soul to tremble. He almost lost control of his divine power. Puchi! Yu Lian grabbed again and grabbed Lu Ming's body, tearing off a large piece of flesh. Lu Ming retreated continuously. Go to hell. Yu Lian, I'm so lucky to have obtained a supreme technique. Yu Lian sneered again and again, as if killing Lu Ming was a sure thing. What should I do? Lu Ming kept thinking of countermeasures in his mind. Kid, you can only rely on yourself. See if you have any treasures that can withstand soul attacks. The measuring word incantation said irresponsibly, what treasures can withstand soul attacks? Lu Ming's mind raced. Chapter 3048. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. He wondered if he had any treasures on him that could block soul attacks. However, the answer was no. Lu Ming had many treasures on him, but most of them were divine tools. Ordinary divine tools could not block soul attacks. Oh, right, the frightening feather painting scroll and the purple copper coffin. The most mysterious treasures on me are these two. I wonder if they can block soul attacks. Finally, Lu Ming thought of the frightening feather painting scroll and the purple copper coffin. Needless to say, the purple copper coffin was incomparably mysterious. Lu Ming rarely touched it. The frightening feather painting scroll was also quite mysterious. At first, Lu Ming thought it was just an ordinary painting scroll with the word battle on it. Later, when Lu Ming learned about the frightening feather from it, the word battle also disappeared. Later, the bone demon actually appeared from the frightening feather painting scroll. Lu Ming also knew that the frightening feather painting scroll contained an internal space. The purple copper coffin was hidden in the frightening feather painting scroll. Lu Ming's understanding of the frightening feather painting scroll was very limited. Now he could only give it a try. If this continued, Lu Ming would really die in Yu Lian's hands. With a thought, Lu Ming controlled the frightening feather painting scroll and flew towards Lu Ming's soul. Then, like a piece of cloth, it wrapped around Lu Ming's soul. Boom! At this time, Lu Ming and Yu Lian exchanged another move. In Yu Lian's hand, a strange energy drilled into Lu Ming's body and blasted towards his soul. But at this time, the frightening feather painting scroll emitted a layer of light. That strange energy directly disappeared when it hit the layer of light. Lu Ming's soul was completely fine. He blocked it. He actually blocked it. Lu Ming was ecstatic. He did not expect the frightening feather painting scroll to be able to block the opponent's soul attack. Just now, he was just giving it a try as a last resort. He never thought that it would actually work. Kill! Coming to his senses, Lu Ming roared. His god force erupted like a volcano, turning into a terrifying spear light that shot towards Yulien. Yulien originally thought that she had shaken Lu Ming's soul and was about to continue attacking to aggravate Lu Ming's injuries. She never expected that Lu Ming would be as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger. He didn't seem to be affected at all and even launched a terrifying attack. Not good, Yulien's expression changed. At this critical moment, he wanted to retreat, but he was a step too late. The spear light accurately struck Lien's body. Lien screamed and was sent flying. His body swayed and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His aura had also weakened. So you can get hurt too. I thought you were immune to my attacks. Lu Ming mocked. Brat, you're courting death. I'll make sure you die miserably. Kill. Yulien screamed. She transformed into a figure and charged toward Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming stepped out, waved a spear, and clashed with Yulien. When the two of them clashed, another strange energy rushed towards Lu Ming's soul, but it was blocked by the Jingyu painting. Lu Ming's soul wasn't affected at all. He attacked with all his might and blasted out his strongest move. Supernova! Lu Ming seized the opportunity and blasted out Supernova. A huge spear light rushed out and then exploded, forming a destructive force that rushed towards Yulien. Boom! Yulien was directly drowned by the destructive force and retreated. He only stopped after retreating for 1,000 meters. His body seemed to have shrunk a little, and there were waves of smoke that dissipated in the air. That was Yulien's soul power. Yulien's cultivation method was strange. His divine body wasn't strong, but his soul power was extremely strong. In the previous move, Yulien was severely injured. A large amount of his soul power was destroyed by Lu Ming, and his strength plummeted. Why aren't you afraid of my soul attack? Yulien roared, somewhat in disbelief. Anyone who was attacked by his soul would tremble and their strength would weaken. But Lu Ming's strength didn't weaken at all just now. Just a small trick, and you want to hurt me? Lu Ming said indifferently. When he said this, he was really pretentious. Humph, Lu Ming, I'll let you off today. Sooner or later, you'll die in my hands. Yulien said coldly, his face incomparably ferocious, very unwilling. However, he still planned to retreat. He would think of a way to kill Lu Ming another day. Unfortunately, Lu Ming didn't have the intention of letting him off. Want to leave? Did I say I'll let you go? Lu Ming sneered. Taking a step out, he directly crossed 1,000 meters. 9 nine-clawed dragons condensed and pounced towards Yulien from all directions. Swoosh! Swoosh! Yulien's figure flickered strangely, avoiding the attack of the divine dragon aspect. Kid, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Yulien's disdainful voice was heard. Is that so? Lu Ming said indifferently. Suddenly, from all directions, ice chains flew out, forming a heavenly encirclement that enveloped heaven and earth. This was Lu Ming's ice shackles. When he spoke earlier, Lu Ming had already used the ice shackles. It was no longer an attack, but a trap. As soon as the ice chains appeared, the terrifying chill on them completely erupted. Ka on the ground, and even in the space, countless ice crystals appeared. The whole world seemed to have turned into a world of ice crystals. A layer of ice crystals also appeared on Lien's body. Damn it! Yulien's face changed drastically. His figure flickered, and he wanted to leave. However, the ice chains continued to revolve, and the chill spread. More and more ice crystals appeared in the space, completely blocking Lien's figure. Moreover, the chill kept surging towards Yulien, trying to freeze him. Just now, Yulien was injured by Lu Ming's exploding star move, and his strength was greatly reduced. At this moment, he couldn't resist the chill emitted by the ice chains. He felt that the blood in his body was about to be frozen, and his speed was greatly reduced. Kill! Lu Ming rushed over and thrust out his long spear. In an instant, more than a dozen spear lights were stacked together and all of them hit Yu Lian. Yu Lian screamed. The dozen spear lights that Lu Ming blasted out were stacked together. How terrifying was that? Yu Lian's body exploded in an instant. The strange thing was that after Yu Lian's body exploded, it turned into countless ghostly shadows that were screaming and shouting. They were like countless vengeful spirits. How many people's souls has this guy swallowed? Lu Ming's eyes turned even colder. These vengeful spirits were most likely the souls that had been swallowed by the other party. At this moment, these vengeful spirits condensed again and turned back into Yu Lian's figure. However, at this moment, Yu Lian's aura was incomparably weak and dispirited. Compared to before, it was more than 10 times weaker, as if he would die at any time. His eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Still not dead? Your vitality is quite tenacious. Let's see if you can still survive with one more move. Lu Ming said coldly. Chapter 3049. Wait a minute, you can't kill me. I'm from the 9 Serenities, Heavenly Residents, the 9 Serenities sect. You probably don't know how powerful the 9 Serenities, Heavenly Residents, is. If you kill me, the 9 Serenities, Heavenly Residents will make you pay back tenfold. Yu Lian roared. The 9 Serenities, Heavenly Residents, was formerly known as the 9 Serenities sect. It was a terrifying and powerful sect with strange and cruel methods. Therefore, Yu Lian brought up the name of the 9 Serenities, Heavenly Residents, and even mentioned the name of the 9 Serenities sect to save his life. However, this move was ineffective against Lu Ming. Lu Ming had come all this way by stepping over the corpses of Skype Rides. How many Skype Rides had he killed? How many threats had he received? Therefore, Lu Ming was completely immune to such threats. Moreover, Yu Lian knew that he had mastered many kinds of divine powers. How could Lu Ming let him leave? You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said in disdain. His long spear slashed down, and a crescent-shaped spear light landed on Yu Lian's body. Yu Lian screamed in pain, and his body shattered into pieces, turning into vengeful spirits. They let out shrill cries, and then slowly gathered together, trying to gather together again. His vitality is really strong. Starburst! There was a flash of surprise in Lu Ming's eyes. He then cast the exploding star's move. Boom! A spear light blasted out and then exploded. A destructive force enveloped all the vengeful spirits. Bang! 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 These vengeful spirits all exploded, turning into black smoke and disappearing. Yu Lian had completely vanished into thin air. Phew! Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. His body shrunk and returned to his normal form. This Yu Lian was really hard to kill. Among all the opponents that Lu Ming had encountered, he was definitely one of the most difficult to deal with. His attack power was actually not very strong, but his methods were strange. He could affect the soul and weaken the opponent's strength, then kill them. This time, if Lu Ming did not have Jingyu's portrait, he would not be Yu Lian's opponent. The best result would be to run away. Then, Lu Ming walked towards the 2 small boxes. With a wave of his hand, he put away the 2 boxes and left in a flash. Not long after, Lu Ming found a quiet room. He swallowed a divine pill and began to regulate his breathing. When Lu Ming had almost recovered, Lu Ming took out the 2 boxes. On the box, there were lines of runes that formed a large formation. It was probably used to protect the things inside the box and prevent the loss of their spirituality. However, after so many years, the grand formation of the chest had already been worn down by the passage of time, and its light had already dimmed. Lu Ming channeled his divine power into the box, wanting to open it. The runes on the chest flickered with a dim light as they were slowly wiped out by Lu Ming's divine power. Not long after, the runes completely disappeared and Lu Ming opened the chest. Inside the box, there were some items, neatly arranged. There was a pair of bracelets, a small tower, and a mirror. Treasures, divine artifacts. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. These things should all be treasures of the divine artifact type. Lu Ming picked up a small tower and carefully channeled his divine power into it. Immediately, the small tower emitted a dazzling light and a powerful fluctuation spread out. There's still spirituality. Lu Ming was overjoyed. However, after careful observation, he discovered that these treasures did indeed have spirituality. However, due to the passage of time, even with the protection of the Grand Formation, much of their spirituality had been lost. At least 90% of it had been lost. They could barely be used. Although much of their spirituality has been lost, the materials used to create these treasures are no small matter. Even if they can't be of much use, I can still give them to Little Ball. I believe that Little Ball will benefit greatly from them. With this thought, Lu Ming smiled and continued to open the second box. The second box also contained some treasures. Like the first box, much of their spirituality had been lost. Lu Ming collected these treasures in a storage ring. He planned to slowly study them after leaving Star Moon Ancient City. If they were useful, he would keep them. If not, he would give them to Little Ball to eat. After putting them away, Lu Ming got up and left this place to continue exploring. However, Lu Ming did not find anything else. After going around and around, Lu Ming finally found another passage. He followed this passage and continued forward. There was nothing strange on the way. After passing through this passage, Lu Ming came to a platform. The platform was very large and many people had already gathered here. Lu Ming's gaze was attracted to the front, because the front of the platform was chaotic and there was no path. At this point, the road was cut off. What's going on? There's no path here. Is this the end? It shouldn't be. We've explored all the other places and found that they were all dead ends. Only this place has a passage. Logically speaking, there should be another path ahead. Many people were discussing. If the path ahead is blocked by this land of chaos, then I'll just have to blast this land of chaos apart. A youth walked to the front of the platform, circulated his divine power and blasted out a few palms. A huge palm print was formed and blasted towards the chaotic land. However, the blurry mist rolled and the youth's palm power was like a stone sinking into the sea. It did not cause any waves. Again, the youth did not give up and continued to attack, but it was completely useless. Don't waste your energy. We've already tried. It's useless, someone said. Obviously, some of the geniuses who had arrived early had already tried. Then what should we do? Someone asked. We can only wait now. I think that after a while there might be changes. I think so too. Several youths spoke in succession. Everyone fell silent. Some people found a place to sit down and waited quietly. They had come here with great difficulty, and they were unwilling to leave just like that. Lu Ming also found a place to sit cross-legged. He comprehended divine power while waiting. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. However, the chaotic land was still hazy and there was no change at all. As time passed, more and more young geniuses arrived. A month later, over 1,000 geniuses had gathered here. However, Lu Ming guessed that only a portion of the geniuses who had entered the castle had come here because many people did not see it. For example, Jin Yuan, Yu Han, Chu Baxing, and the others did not see it. However, Su Yan and the youth clad in beast skin were also here. Time passed quickly, and another month passed. To the gods, a few months passed in the blink of an eye. No one was impatient. There's movement over there. There's someone in the chaos. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone's gaze turned toward the chaos. Originally, that place was hazy and filled with gray mist, making it impossible to see what was inside. Previously, someone had even flown in to investigate, but it was boundless, and they could not tell the direction. But at this moment, the fog was churning, and a figure was actually walking out from it. Chapter 3050. The fog rolled, and a figure walked out of it. It was an old man with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. He looked very old and was full of the aura of time. Just like that, he stood above the chaotic fog. It's not a physical body. Many people were surprised. Everyone could see that the old man was not made of flesh and blood, but was made of energy. Everyone's eyes were bright, and they were all guessing who the old man was. Why did he walk out of the fog? Was he someone who had not died in Xingyue ancient city? Thinking of this, many people were shocked. If that was the case, then the old man's strength was terrifying. I am the spirit of the array here. The old man spoke, and his voice spread throughout the place. It turned out to be the spirit of the array. Everyone was surprised and breathed a sigh of relief. It was not a living powerhouse as they had imagined. However, the spirit of the array was also terrifying. It was no small matter that the array was set up so long ago and there was still an array spirit left behind. "Senior, why is there no path here?" Someone asked. "There is a path, but I have hidden it." The spirit of the array said. "Why?" Someone continued to ask. "Because there are too many of you and too few paths. There is not enough space." The spirit of the array said. After that, he swept his gaze across the place and said, "You are here for the life, spirit, vitality stone, right?" Everyone was silent. They were indeed here for the life, spirit, vitality stone. The life, spirit, vitality stone that was guarded by so many people must be a priceless treasure. It seems that the others also know about the existence of the life, spirit, vitality stone through other channels. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Su Yan and the others. That was because Su Yan and the others had not seen the scene in the secret room. It was conceivable that Su Yan and the others knew about the existence of the life, spirit, vitality stone through other channels. Perhaps everyone who entered the castle would know about the existence of the life, spirit, vitality stone. Sure enough, the old man began to explain. In the distant past, there were guards stationed in every direction of this castle. Now they're all dead, but they left behind projections. Time has passed quickly, and so many years have passed. The fact that you've made it here means that the destiny of the heavens has arrived. The time has come for the natal spirit stone to appear. The spirit of the array sighed. Everyone looked at the spirit of the array and did not speak, waiting for him to continue. "So this time I'll give you a chance." At this point, the array spirit waved its hand and the chaotic fog began to churn violently. Then, a small path appeared in the fog and extended into the depths of the fog. It was unknown where it led. There were a total of 18 paths. As long as you walk the path to the end, the person who reaches the end will obtain the life spirit origin stone. However, after you walk the path, you will face a great battle. The array spirit said. "Just us?" Su Yan asked. "Of course not," Yangqi said. "You're only from one of the directions. The people from the other directions will compete in the same way. Once you enter the primal chaos mist, you'll be able to meet them." The array spirit said. "Also, only one person is allowed to enter each of the 18 paths." With that, he waved his hand, and 18 beads appeared in his hand, emitting a dazzling light. These 18 beads are the guides. Only those who have the guides can walk on one of the paths. Those who enter without the guides will die here. Having said that, the real dragon waved his hand and the 18 beads flew out in all directions of the platform. Guides. We need the guides to go up and compete. In other words, only 18 people can walk on these paths. Many people were still digesting the information that the old man had just said. The 18 beads had already flown over. "I want one of these guides." Those with quick reflexes dashed toward one of the beads. "Me too. This one is mine." Immediately, the rest of the people came to their senses and rushed towards the 18 round pearls. Get lost. The young man in beast skin had a berserk aura. He was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. His body carried a desolate and ancient aura. Once he attacked, he tore a few young men apart. He reached out his hand and grabbed a bead. He was a prodigy who had awakened the origin divine power factor. No one dared to compete with him, and he became the first person to obtain the bead. The other one, Su Yan, was also powerful. However, his attacks were not as domineering. A few punches made the young men vomit blood, but he did not kill them. He also obtained a bead. Lu Ming also moved. The moment the round beads flew out, he soared into the sky and dashed toward one of the round beads. He had cast the Nine Heavens Kuan Peng technique, and his speed was amazing. Before the others dashed over, he had already grabbed a round bead in his hands. "Let go of the guides!" With a loud roar, a young man slammed his palm towards Lu Ming. The palm print whistled as if it could topple mountains and trample seas. "Get lost!" Lu Ming shouted coldly. He turned around and pulled out his spear. Boom! The huge spear radiance shattered the opponent's palm print and bombarded his body. The opponent coughed out blood and retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! Boom! However, several other young men rushed towards Lu Ming from other directions. There were thousands of prodigies at the scene, but there were only 18 beads. A large number of people were fighting for each bead. One could imagine how fierce the competition was. "It seems that I can't suppress these people if I don't use some tricks." Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He activated the battle formula and quadrupled his combat strength. His aura skyrocketed. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, Lu Ming thrust his spear more than 10 times. More than 10 spear gleams burst out and were extremely dazzling. 7 to 8 young men who pounced on Lu Ming had their bodies pierced and were sent flying far away. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and their eyes were filled with horror. Lu Ming had already shown mercy. Otherwise, these people would have been dead. Seeing how powerful Lu Ming was, some of the people who wanted to fight for the beads hesitated and retreated to fight for the other beads. Lu Ming's figure flashed and flew towards one of the paths. He landed on it smoothly. Su Yan and the young man in the animal skin coat landed on the path earlier than Lu Ming. The two of them landed on the path earlier than Lu Ming. Out of the 18 paths, 3 of them occupied Lu Ming. On the platform, the remaining people fought fiercely for the remaining 15 beads. It was extremely tragic. People were constantly being killed and died here. Finally, there was a powerful person who managed to snatch a bead after a bloody battle and set foot on a path. After a few moments of fighting, hundreds of prodigies had fallen. The 18 beads all had owners. Each of the 18 paths was occupied by a person. "All right, you can set off. Follow this path and keep going forward." The array spirit instructed. Chapter 3051. The formation spirit instructed the 18 people who had obtained the guide to walk along the path under their feet. "I want to go too. I don't believe that I can't go up without a guide." Someone roared, unwilling to give up just like that. He rushed towards one of the lower paths and landed on that small path. However, as soon as he landed on the path lit up and a ball of white light shrouded him. He immediately let out a shrill scream and his body turned into ashes in the white light, leaving nothing behind. The others were shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. Sure enough, they couldn't go up without a guide. Otherwise, it would be a dead end. The remaining people secretly rejoiced. Originally, many people who didn't obtain a guide also wanted to rush up and give it a try. Fortunately, they were a step too late. Otherwise, they would be the ones dead. Now, they could only look at Lu Ming and the others enviously. Lu Ming and the others stepped forward and walked along the path. Soon, their figures disappeared in the thick fog. Lu Ming continued walking. Gradually, he couldn't see the others anymore. All he could see was the path that stretched forward under his feet and the thick fog around him. This path was very long. Lu Ming walked for half an hour, but still didn't reach the end. Lu Ming continued to walk forward patiently. After another half an hour, he didn't know how many miles he had walked before the path finally came to an end. At the end of the path, there was a platform that was suspended in the chaotic fog. Lu Ming came to the path and found nothing. "Do I have to wait here?" Lu Ming pondered. Then he sat cross-legged and waited quietly. Lu Ming didn't have to wait for too long. Soon, the fog rolled on one side of the platform. A small path extended from the fog and finally connected to the platform under Lu Ming's feet. After a while, a young man walked along the path and came to the platform. As soon as the young man came to the platform, he looked at Lu Ming with sharp eyes. "The two of you can fight. Only the winner can continue." A voice suddenly sounded. It was the spirit's voice. "So this is the way to compete." Lu Ming's heart stirred. Lu Ming didn't recognize the young man in front of him. He wasn't one of the 18 people who had received the travel permit. Obviously, he had come from a different direction. The array spirit wanted to use this method to randomly let people from the two paths meet and then have a battle. The winner would continue to move forward. Lu Ming had encountered this kind of method before. It had one use, which was that you didn't know who your next opponent would be. "Are you going to scram by yourself, or do you want me to kick you out?" The young man looked at Lu Ming and said coldly. He didn't put Lu Ming in his eyes at all. After he entered the castle, he didn't walk in the same direction as Lu Ming. Naturally, he hadn't seen Lu Ming in action and didn't know how powerful Lu Ming was. In his senses, Lu Ming was merely a 5th-level celestial god. How powerful could a 5th-level celestial god be? "This is exactly what I wanted to say to you," Lu Ming said indifferently. "Stubborn. Seems like you want to force me to make a move. Kid, once I make a move, do you know the consequences?" The young man's voice was even colder. Cold light flashed in his eyes with a hint of threat. If Lu Ming could scram by himself, it would save him the trouble of making a move, and he could also save some energy. After all, according to the rules, there would definitely be a big battle ahead. Although Lu Ming was only a 5th-level celestial god, he would still need to expend some energy. That was why he threatened Lu Ming and asked Lu Ming to scram by himself. "You talk too much." Lu Ming was getting impatient. He took a step forward and activated the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 4 times. His fist struck out continuously. Roar, roar, roar. Dragon roars could be heard continuously. 9 nine-clawed dragons were formed and pounced towards the young man with a terrifying aura. "Your strength!" Sensing the terrifying aura of the 9 nine-clawed dragons, the young man's face changed and was filled with disbelief. As soon as Lu Ming made a move, he felt a strong sense of danger. Boom! He attacked with everything he had, his god power erupting like a volcano. He punched out a few times, and each time he punched out, an eagle would fly out. He punched out a dozen times in a row, and more than a dozen eagles appeared, which then pounced on the 9 nine-clawed divine dragons. The young man was also very strong. He was a half-step divine king, and his divine energy had awakened to 99%. If he didn't have such strength, he wouldn't have been able to get a guide and set foot on the path. He fought fiercely with Lu Ming and resisted Lu Ming's attacks for a while. Lu Ming didn't use his ancient god body. It would be difficult for him to deal with such an expert. Ice chains. Lu Ming's mind stirred. 9 ice chains danced in the air, entangling the other party. At the same time, Lu Ming raised his long spear and charged towards the young man. Lu Ming continuously used the divine dragon aspect art, ice chains, and 3 strokes of destruction. His attacks were like a storm, wave after wave. Finally, the young man couldn't withstand it anymore. After barely holding on for more than 10 moves, he was hit by Lu Ming's spear. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and he was sent flying towards the platform. As soon as the young man was sent flying off the platform, the path he was walking on retracted from the platform. He caught the young man and retreated back to his original spot. This meant that the young man was eliminated. In front of Lu Ming's platform, another path appeared and continued to extend forward. "Then let's continue." Lu Ming's eyes were firm and filled with battle intent. If this continued, he would probably encounter sky prides like Jin Yuan, Chu Baxing, and Yu Han. Lu Ming wasn't afraid of the battle. He was even looking forward to it. This time, it didn't take long before another platform appeared in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to wait on the platform. Not long after, a path extended and connected to Lu Ming's platform. Then a young and beautiful woman walked up. "It's you." When the lady saw Lu Ming, her expression changed drastically and she became very ugly. This woman was one of the 18 people who set off with Lu Ming. She had seen Lu Ming fight before. She was no match for Lu Ming. What a coincidence, beautiful. Why? Do you want to fight? Lu Ming smiled. Young master, you're a man. Can't you go easy on me? The lady broke into a smile and blinked at Lu Ming. She was extremely flirtatious. You don't have to use this trick on me. My wife is much prettier than you, so this trick won't work on me. Lu Ming continued to smile. You're talking nonsense. The woman's face turned red with anger. She had always been conceited about her beauty. Countless young men flocked to her. Now, Lu Ming was treating her with such an attitude. He even said that his wife was much prettier than her. How could she not be angry? She thought that Lu Ming was lying. Nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. I'm telling the truth. You want to fight, right? Come on, I won't go easy on you. Lu Ming said with a ferocious look in his eyes.